How's it going, everyone? Of course, this is today's episode of Top Clack, and I'm here with none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Dr. Legend, Gordon Ramsay, with his total awarded stars by the Michelin Guide of 16. Can you guys believe that, guys? 16 Michelin stars for my guest host, Gordon Ramsay. That's a ridiculous amount of Michelin stars. The guy's an absolute savage. Gordon, how are you doing today?
And it's well fucking earned. I worked fucking hard for those stars.
Damn. I completely agree, Gordon. How do you feel about raw chicken?
I fucking hate it.
Hate raw chicken, okay. How do you feel about sandwiches containing idiots?
Those I actually like.
Oh, shit. Alright. Fair enough. Alright, we should probably switch back now.
Oh, yeah. I can't hold that up anymore.
As much as I want to do the entire show with Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. Then I should have... That would have been probably a week or something more for preparation.
I like that your when you swap back to your camera, it goes to the splash screen for the international kit.
And it's flipped.
It's mirrored. Yeah.
Fuck. That was very Gordon Ramsay.
Quality issues.
Yeah.
No big deal. No big deal, guys.
Something had to go wrong. I mean, that was obvious from the start.
If something doesn't go wrong in the first, if something doesn't go wrong in the first minute, we haven't done the show right.
Exactly.
It's very, very normal. Of course, guys, this is just a bit of a silly pre-show, as usual, checking in to make sure everything's going all right. We'll officially start the show in about 5, 6, 7 minutes once some more people have rolled in here. You guys know the drill. Glad to see so many faces already chilling in here, though. Ted Strong, Jeff Leopard, Geo. Jeff Leopard, thank you so much for the sub as well. You don't believe it? I don't believe it either. One day I'll have Gordon Ramsay on the show. We'll see what happens.
Man, that would be really awesome.
There's no way he would say yes. He would just ignore. His PR
Probably
guy would
not.
just ignore the email.
Yeah. I mean, you probably have to have a bit more pull. Like, it took them, I think 6 seasons or something until they got Gordon Ramsay on Hot Ones. So,
yeah.
maybe in a few years.
Which is an amazing series, by the way. Hot Ones is fantastic.
Absolutely. And the Gordon Ramsay episode is stellar. It's
really
just
good.
Awesome.
He makes him do the eggs at the very end, his scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
I make those eggs all the time, by the way. Those are amazing.
Since I saw how he does it, it's the only way I'm going to do eggs.
Yeah,
it's just
I can't do scrambled
once
eggs
you have them,
any other way now.
Absolutely.
Butter is amazing.
And it's one of those things that every normal kitchen staff will tell you, like cook or something, just like use butter. That's the whole secret of most restaurants. It's just like put butter on everything, and it's just like it's taste.
Yeah, and it's just pure flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's funny. I've been watching this show on Netflix called The Mind of a Chef. And, and where in the show now they're focusing on Ludo Lefebvre, and he is like pretty classically French trained, and he's like showing off some of his recipes or whatever, and he uses so much butter, and it's incredible.
Yeah. That's basically French trained. It's just like, and year at a pound of butter or something.
And the best part is it's not just like all at one time. It's like every stage in the recipe involves using a lot of butter in different methods, like at various temperatures and stuff. It's unbelievably funny.
Cleared butter, brown butter. It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
Legolandia, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub, as well as O2URR with the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate that, guys. And also the Foo Box with the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much, man. Very kind of you guys.
I think I just figured out why I'm flipped. Let's see.
I think you just flipped back. I think.
Yeah, this should be. Now it's right. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Fixed it. Ha! Production value.
That's right. Typical top Clack production value.
Just said that just wait a second. Now I have to. This can't stand. I need at least one time that.
Wow! What a plug.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even go back to your camera. It just goes to a black screen.
Yeah. Well, I had to change screens. Just can't.
Oh my gosh.
Oh well, now I'm back. Now I'm
this
back.
guy.
Sorry.
This guy.
Yeah, obviously I did that just to show off that animation. Obviously.
I appreciate it. For those of you wondering who Quer is, we'll talk about him in just a moment, guys, once we officially start the episode. saw a couple people have been asking about it. Langlandia saying Irish butter is where it's at. I do like Irish butter. Although I really like any European butter. I feel like European butter is just better than most American butter. At least the stuff that we get around my area.
It's probably the same with the... Okay, I don't want to start a fight, but like whenever I hear American cheese, I get like, ugh. It's just not...
Yeah.
It's not real cheese most of the times. Like what we would consider cheese, basically.
American cheese, not very good. Yeah, American cheese does have its purposes here, I feel like, but as far as just a good cheese product, it is not one of them.
No. I think the most references I get is for like in contact with burgers. It's just like always American cheese.
Yeah,
just
it's
because
quintessential. It's quintessential on an American cheeseburger. It makes sense.
Yeah,
it just has very amazing melting properties.
Yeah. And from that, I think just like probably butter. But I don't think I ever really tried American butter. Can't at least think of it.
Oh boy. Hey Tyler, good to see you, man. This is the break you needed from writing a paper. Nice.
Well,
procrastinating with Top Clack. That's our new series.
We just need to be online for it.
Derps Radamus says American cheese is actually Canadian in origin. Interesting.
Isn't that true for most of the stuff?
I don't know. I've never thought to look up the origins of American cheese.
Oh, that's probably, and you don't want to do this now because then you end up in Wikipedia hell, where just like one more link, and then 3 hours later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been there. I've fallen down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's so easy.
$9 p.m. and the bot pinged. Did it ping? Okay. We'll start in just a moment here. We're still under the mark of viewers to officially start the show, which is 69. So once we a little closer to that number, we're gonna officially start, guys. Cheddar over American cheese? Yeah, I mean cheddar is fundamentally a better cheese than American cheese, but American cheese still has its place, as awful as it is. Is Quer on the QMK team? I don't think so. Are you?
No. I have probably 1 or 2 pull requests that got merged, but I think most of that is just like key maps or something. I sometimes work on QMK stuff, but I'm not part of the team or anything. Just like normal. Gotcha. Here's some code.
Yeah. Nathan streaming? Nathan streams on Thursdays now? Well, that's unfortunate for us. that is both
and we're done.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Pack it up, boys. We're heading home.
Yeah.
Top Clack can no longer survive if Nathan takes the Thursday 6 p.m. block from us.
We have to talk to him about that.
That's gonna be
that's
gonna be an easy GG no re.
Yeah.
It's been a good run, guys. It really has.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Monka
really great. I could be on the show for one time before it's off the air forever.
For 8 minutes. No big deal.
It's something.
All right. Well, I guess with Nathan streaming, we're not going to reach our standard viewership anyways, so we might as well start now. I'm going to roll a quick intro, and then we're going to get into this, guys. Wait, Quer Delay has now killed TC. Is he delayed?
No, it's a common joke that I delay all group buys. So.
Oh, do you? That's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, does Quer sound okay right now? Are the audio levels acceptable? Is one of us more quiet than the other? He sounds divine. I think you spelled divine wrong. Oh man. Sounds great. Well, okay, cool.
Nebuland, you had the audacity to try to build your JO1 with ANSI, so there's your problem right there.
Oh my gosh. It's just like having Jay on the show. Fantastic.
Well, there's a reason why he said, like, get him. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I feel you. So, Gasp with a tier 1 sub, 3-month streak. Thank you so much for that, my friend. All right. Everyone says it's sounding good. All right. I'm going to roll the intro and we're going to get into this episode, guys. Alright guys, welcome ladies and gentlemen to this week's episode of Top Clack. I am your host Quakeums, joined not this time by my usual British co-host Jay, but now we have a new EU host for this episode. This is guest host Kwerdenker. I'm terrible at pronouncing that, that's just the way it is. But why don't you give a quick, just a quick introduction on who you are, what you do in the community, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm Kwerdenker. My real name is Sebastian. Most people will probably recognize my voice as I'm one of the co-hosts or hosts of the International Kit, which is an audio podcast about keyboards, obviously. I do it with my co-host Egla, and we try to concentrate on, well, international topics, so a lot of European perspective. And I also do a lot of photographing for keyboards. I think some people already have seen some of my shots. And yeah, and apart from that, I always try to build keyboards and fail spectacularly. And there are some build stream of that. So, but there's a reason I don't do it anymore.
When a keyboard
it's fun for other people.
When a keyboard build, particularly a stream, goes perfectly, I worry. Because they never go right. There's no such thing as a perfectly built keyboard. There's always some minute detail, however small it may be.
Yeah. And, well, for me, there's mostly not a small detail, something rather large. So there are examples of that. And, not proud of that, honestly. But, well, I've been told it's very entertaining to see me fail. So there's that.
Hey, that's not a bad selling point. It really isn't.
Yeah, honestly, sure. But I wouldn't want to do it every week for just like my own sanity.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't remember the last time I had a perfectly streamed keyboard build. It just doesn't happen. Something always goes wrong. Yeah. But anyways, guys, if you haven't been able to tell, and maybe you missed the last couple episodes of Top Clack, Jay is away on holiday. He will be gone for this episode as well as his Sunday build stream, which is upcoming. I believe he's going to be gone for that as well. So to fill in on today's position, instead of Jay, we have Quer. So he was kind enough to join us and help me run the show today, because running the show alone is kind of a hassle, honestly. Even though it is very possible, and I have done it before, it's just kind of a nightmare when you don't have a co-host. So glad to have someone with me. So thank you very much for that.
Sure, anytime.
There's definitely some EU love in the chat for you. Gondolidrum is very happy to see someone else from the ISO gang. So yeah, we're all about diversity here at Top Clack, of course.
Well, yeah, somebody has to substitute for Jay, and well, I can't do that if I wouldn't be an ISO guy. I think it's just like one of the prerequisites of substituting for Jay. Hold up ISO. And I mean, I don't know how good it will show on stream, but this is probably the best qualification I have for that. So my ISO keys have ISO on them.
A big bag of ISO keycaps.
Yeah.
That's all you need. That's all you need. Mac Mutant and Yak Bats and It's Undone. Thank you so much for the subscriptions, guys. Appreciate that. All right. So let's in common tradition here, we're gonna start out with a bit of a mail call. This one should be breathtakingly fast. So why don't you share what you have got this week in your mail, Quer?
Yeah, sadly we picked the wrong week for me, because well, this is something where I can substitute for Jay. got nothing this week that's related to keyboards. I bought a few things, but those, well, group buys, that's going to take time. The only things I got this week are a new camera and new streaming setup, basically, and I can't really show that off because, well, I'm using it right now, and was just in time, basically. I got the last part 2 hours, or 3 hours ago, my time. So this stream is basically sponsored by Amazon Prime now. Without it wouldn't work. So
I'll be expecting that check, Amazon.
Yeah. But yeah, so sadly, no keyboard stuff. I could show off some of my keyboards I got in the last mail call, but well, I don't think anybody's interested in that. So
it's all good. But you do look pretty good on stream, so at least we can at least see the benefits from some of the new equipment that you have gotten.
Yeah, that was worth it. Definitely.
And Fizkey subs for tier 1 for 25 months. Wow, that's pretty OG. Thank you so much. And he says, perfect ending to my birthday, watching Top Clack. It's your birthday? It's Undone also
happy
said it was
birthday.
his birthday. There's two subs that have birthdays. That's amazing.
Double happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you for spending time on your birthday with us. There's probably way better things you could do than listen to two random guys talk about keyboards, let's be honest. So we definitely appreciate that.
On a birthday, yes, probably. But
fantastic. All right, so as far as the mail call goes, mine is pretty short today too. I did get one thing in the mail. I actually got this last week, but I didn't get my mail in time for the episode, so I just couldn't. So I'm gonna show it off this week. I got some of the Katakana black and white caps from the Key Company. Jason from TKC was kind enough to send me a set of this to check out. So I got to check out the die sub and reverse die sub work on this and kind of get a feel for how their new PBT factory Infinikey can actually perform. So I've been typing on this for a few days now, and it's pretty nice overall. It's not perfect. There are some things I would like to see changed and addressed, but I think as far as like a brand new factory and like their kind of breakout product, it's actually pretty good. So we'll talk more about that another time. I am going to be writing a little bit of an article on that, so if anyone's curious, they can check that out on the website in the near future. I will, of course, make an announcement when that does go up, because a lot of people have been asking me for it.
I'm looking forward to that.
Unlike Brian, who is washed out. Am I washed out? You want me to turn on some mood lighting? This like washes me out even more, but sometimes people like this. I never know what to do. we'll try that. Fantastic. All right, Starstone does sub at tier 2 for 19 months. Thank you so much, man. That's another long one.
Oh.
A lot of long subs today. I love it.
19 months. That's a long time.
That is a long time. All right, let's roll into our news doc. We'll talk about some of the happenings that have been going on in the last week. There have been several things going on, so hopefully we can catch you guys up on the things that are happening. All right, so starting us off this week, we're going to have an interest check from Thunderburker, who you might know from TMO fame. He is the original designer of the TMO 50, and to a lot of people's surprise, there is now a second version of the TMO happening. So it is no longer called the TMO 50. The new moniker is the TMO V2, signifying its new iteration. So this is a pretty interesting one, guys. I know a lot of people have been hunting on the aftermarket for the TMO 50s, and they go for a pretty penny secondhand, to be totally honest. So, So it's kind of cool to see another one ran. I was under the impression that they weren't going to run another one anytime soon, based on some things I heard in the back end. But apparently they have changed their minds, and Thunderburker wants to get a new version out here. So what do you think about this one, Quir? Is a TMO a board you're interested in?
Probably not. For the reason I'm probably very terrible at anything smaller than 60%. I've switched from 60% boards up to 65% boards just because I can't get used to so few keys, basically. So switching to something even lower is probably out of the reach for me. And I mean, no ISO support, so what am I gonna do? But it's still a lovely board. I mean, it's a unique design. And from what I've heard from people that have used one or have one, it's a really lovely board to use. So I think those people that are interested in this kind of layout and size are gonna be really happy that round 2 is happening, because as you said, the aftermarket for the original TMO50 is a bit crazy. So
yeah, definitely.
it just helps people out.
Yeah, so this one's kind of interesting. So he does make some alterations here. This is not just a rehash of the previous TMO50. This is almost an entirely new board. So just to run off a couple of the specs here, the PCB is going to be QMK compatible. It's going to be USB-C. It is going to be designed by UPAS of Cannon Keys. So very nice stuff there. There is going to be 22 underglow RGB LEDs here, which is absolutely outrageous for a board this small. It's borderline insanity. But hey, if you really want that RGB underglow, this is certainly going to deliver. It's going to have a top mount design, just like it did previously, a 7-degree typing angle, which is pretty nice and comfortable, in my opinion. It is going to have a brass weight this time around, which is pretty interesting. So there was not a weight option on the previous run of the TMO50, but this one is going to see that, which is nice because even the all-aluminum version of the previous TMO50 was still a little on the light side. It kind of slid around the desk a little bit. So I'm glad to see that there is actually an option here to make that heavier. Cool thing about the brass weight is the files will be open source. So if you ever want to get something done in a different material, you'll be free to do so. As far as the plate is concerned, it's going to be sandblasted brass. That's going to come with the base kit. There's going to be polycarbonate extra available. If you more into the polycarbonate kind of thing. But interesting to see that it's not actually an option in the base kit. It's an add-on, and you have to get the brass kit that comes with it, the brass weight and plate, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice there. The files for the plate will be open source, though, so if you want a different material, like palm or something, definitely you can go for that. The case, it's going to be aluminum or full polycarbonate are for your two options, which is kind of interesting. So in the past, we had either an all-aluminum version or we had the aluminum top with the polycarbonate bottom. So it's kind of like a hybrid, and then the aluminum ring kind of went over everything. It was fairly seamless design. Here, it's a little bit different. You can get an all-aluminum or all-polycarbonate version. And there's, as you can see from the pictures, I'm going to try to find a better one for you guys. So instead of it being kind of a seamless design where the bottom is just a chunk of polycarbonate or aluminum and the top slides around it, this one's kind of a two-piece, which is a little bit more standard of a top mount design. So that picture shows it off pretty darn well. As far as the polycarbonate is concerned, though, you can still get a polycarbonate bottom in the extras, which is kind of interesting. So if you wanted to do kind of a hybrid approach like they did in the previous round, you can still do that. There's going to be two choices for the polycarbonate. There's going to be clear translucent and smoky translucent. So that smoky polycarbonate has been getting pretty popular in the community. A lot of people like that. So that's pretty cool there. And yeah, this is going to be launching on Cannon Keys in November with a 100-unit limit, first come, first serve, as well as mykeyboard.eu. We do not know the limit for them, though. So pretty interesting.
I think from what I remember, they're gonna be a bit lower than the 100 units, but I'm not too sure about the numbers, but I think they might not get the full 100 units.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Historically, it winds up being maybe 50 or 30 units.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah,
and there's still a good question about the split, like how many aluminum and how many PC versions.
Exactly. So on Cannon Keys, they're going to have 65 of the aluminum versions and 35 of the polycarbonate. Yeah. I'm presuming that's not going to include all the extra parts that you're going to be able to add those. So that can be kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I'm still I'm a bit questionable about the underglow amount of underglow RGB LEDs because 22 could 22 could work. It might work. Yeah, it's just like I once did an RGB underglow mod or like strip mod on one of my boards, and it drew too much power if you had it at full brightness. So I'm always a bit hesitant to add too many underglow LEDs to a board. But
certainly, yeah.
I guess they test that or figure it out. But yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like I think they already tested the PCBs if I read this correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Another interesting thing about this one is they're going for a slightly different layout. So previously, this key right here, actually this entire row had two options. You could do the normal stagger, which was, as you can probably expect, a little bit more normal, and then there was kind of an off stagger version. So in the actual plate of the original TMO, this entire space was open right here on this row, which is row 2 of this keyboard, but it's traditionally row 3 for other keyboards. So this was entirely thing was open, and you could use a 1.5 U cap on each side, I think, or you could use like a 1.25 on this side and a 1.75 on this side. They have since what seems to be lengthened the overall keyboard, I think, to include a 1.75 on this left side right here, as well as a 1.75 over here. So the idea here is that they were trying to get it to where you could get a standard GMK base set or a standard Enjoy PBT base set or something similar, and you can mount it on here while having the correct row profiles and not having to buy additional kits. So that was kind of one of the draws previously to the TMO, is you could still cover it, but you didn't quite get the row profiles 100% right, depending on the layout that you wanted. Here, it's a little bit easier to go about that. So here on this left side, you'd obviously use like a stepped control, for instance, like they have here, step caps or step control. They have that in a lot of the renders. And then on the other side of the board, let me try to find the right picture for it. Here it is. On the other side, you're going to use your standard caps lock key. So you're going to have the stepped on the left side and the standard on the right side. And obviously the legends won't line up because you're not going to use two caps lock keys there. But the row profiles will actually line up this time. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Definitely a step in the right direction. A lot of people
like that. And I think that's more important than like what's printed on the caps. I mean,
yeah. Like, I mean, the kind of people that buy this type of board are the kind of people that are okay, generally speaking, with having mislegend caps.
Yeah, and they're especially okay with it if they don't have to buy extra caps. So if you can cover the layout with a GMK base kit, that's less money you have to spend, and then you're probably okay with just having a caps lock key instead of an enter key. I mean, at that point, I think that's something we see more and more in the sub 60 category, that 40-45% boards that are designed to fit a standard base kit without having to buy the additional 40 kit, whatever it's named in the most group buys. So
yeah, we've seen that recently with the Equinox, which definitely has a very similar approach to that. You know, historically, people have to spend more money on a key set to outfit a smaller board. That's just how it's pretty much always been in this community, and now we're starting to see kind of movements away from that to where you can use these sub 60% boards without having to buy a bunch of additional kits, spending twice as much as everyone else.
Though on the other hand, it will be interesting how that goes for the MOQ of these 40% or smaller kits, like these extra kits. If more and more boards have are able to be outfitted with the standard base kit, less people have the need to buy the extra kits, and that might be problematic for those people that still need it with older boards, or that prefer the non-standard or
yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I didn't even think about that. You'd probably wind up having to, shave off a bunch of keys that people aren't really using as commonly and just throw the rest in the base kit, maybe. Or maybe we're starting a movement over to where all 40%, all like sub 60% layouts can use base kits.
Yeah,
which would be very interesting.
That would be interesting for the future boards, definitely. But it could or will get problematic at some point if the trend continues for like people with vintage boards at that point, then or legacy support. That's going to be interesting how that's going to be handled.
Yeah.
But that's just something to look out for. I think it won't be that fast. I mean, 40s are still a bit more niche than everything else. So I think most of the kits did get MOQ, but I don't know the numbers for the large group buys, how big the numbers are and how big an impact like this can be. But something to look out for the future.
Yeah, certainly. So in kind of conclusion here, I do think this board does look pretty awesome, even though it is kind of a different iteration of the TMO50. It is basically an entirely new design. They wanted to keep a lot of the things that made it pretty nice, though. The thin bezels, the kind of HHKB blockers that you see here. This kind of lip on the front, which is a little bit easier to see on these first couple pictures here. Seems like they've kind of emphasized that front lip a little bit more. And I think this is pretty successful. I was a big fan of the previous TMO50, and this one I think is doing a pretty good job as well. And I have no doubt this is going to sell very well. They are going to sell out every single last one of their units, regardless of which vendors they're using.
Yeah, that much is pretty much a given, I think.
Yeah. I also think this new weight is really, really adorable. The font on the weight I think is very, very cute.
Yeah, it fits the theme of the board.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Just one point that's quite interesting for all American or US orders of the polycarbonate version, there's gonna be an artisan included, but it's just for the US versions. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's another US EU difference, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, guys, so if you're interested in this is coming next month, courtesy of Canon Keys and MyKeyboard.eu, so definitely look forward to that. It's not going to be easy to get one of these. Like I said, these are going to sell out pretty quick. It sounds like they're going to be first come, first serve, so you're going to have to be on the ball if you guys want one of these.
With most keyboard buys these days.
With most limited keyboard buys of boards that were previously incredibly popular and sell for 2 or 3 times on the aftermarket.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I like that it's a different design. So there's less like just people gonna buy it just to flip it or something. Just because it's something different. It's something for people that want to have the idea of the board and not just the exact board because it's pricey. So there's, I think.
I'm glad they're doing as many units as they are in this one, because the last one was pretty limited. I think it was limited to like 30 units before extras. There's more than that in the wild. I mean, there's probably around 50 or 60 TMOs in the wild at this point. But
that's not a lot.
It's very, very limited, guys. So seeing 100 limit for just the US proxy is very nice. I'm glad more people are going to be able to get their hands on stuff like this.
Yeah.
Cool. So shout out to Dixie Mech, who did sub at tier 1 earlier, as well as Switch Keys AU, who donated 1,000 bits. Wow, thank you so much, guys. It is very kind of you.
Thank you.
And then Damage Point subscribed as well for tier 1, 7 months. Very nice. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to our next board, which is another fairly interesting one. This is the Mithril or Mithril, 60%, depending on what your pronunciation is, where you're located. I'm partial to Mithril, but hey, it is what it is. And this is by user Kenton, who is a keyboard lover and designer from DT Hart, which is a Chinese design and manufacture studio. And this is kind of their new product here, which is a pretty interesting 60%. With a couple different options. So, like you can see here, it's going to be an aluminium top. Do you say aluminium?
In German, it's aluminium.
Okay.
So
okay, just making sure. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we have aluminium top and bottom, and there's kind of like a little. I don't know if this is supposed to be a name tag. I don't know if this is customizable or if it's going to be some kind of logo. They call it a logo badge in the thread, but I'm not sure if you're going to be able to change what's going on there. But as you can see let me find it. Here we go. This is kind of a multi-part design where you have a big kind of top enclosure with an integrated 4mm plate. Which some people are a fan of and some people maybe not so much. It does look to be kind of a universal design. And of course, the little logo badge here slots in there. Then there's kind of a big bottom here, which is going to be aluminum as well. And then at the bottom here, there's a steel weight. So opting for steel instead of brass, which is pretty awesome. I kind of appreciate that. Something we don't see terribly often. Brass getting a little stale in the community, if you ask me. But, that's just because everyone loves it.
Yeah,
And I'm a hipster.
sure. And well, it's about weight. So brass is pretty good in that regard, but steel also very nice.
Yeah, certainly. So the logo badge is actually, interestingly enough, going to be PVD finished aluminum, which is kind of interesting because we don't generally see PVD on aluminum in the community. We generally see that with brass or steel. So that's kind of a fun fact there. The PCB is going to be QMK with a Type-C connector, which is nice. I love seeing those. I think that all PCBs these days need to be USB-C and support QMK. Anything after that is kind of a bonus, but I feel like those two things are like the baseline of good PCs these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Type-C should just be the standard by now. And I think more and more boards are doing it. So that's really nice.
Certainly, yeah. And this one, the price is actually really interesting. So this is just an interest check, so obviously this price maybe not final, but they are estimating $278 US, which seems pretty good for this type of setup.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seems a bit low. I mean, it's a quite hefty board. At least it looks like it. So that's a lot of material, and I don't know the last time. I don't know how the prices are for stainless steel weights. Like how
they're generally more expensive to work with than brass because steel is just harder to work with than brass.
Yeah.
But the weight on this one actually seems really simple. It's quite literally just a long rectangle of steel. Doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of design going into it, so maybe that keeps costs down. Something I think could contribute to this is that the designer here, we don't see this too often here, but there's no real middleman here. DT Hart, I think, is the design and manufacturer studio. I think they're actually the manufacturers. So they cut out a retailer. So because you don't have the retailer markup, you can sell things, however you want because you are the retailer.
That makes sense.
Which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
So this price could be real. It could be legit. It could go up. We don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'm just the normal 60% top version is, I think it's interesting that they're going for such a vast layout support with an integrated plate. Normally, we don't see that much possible layouts with an integrated top plate.
Yeah,
design.
I mean, even with the HHKB configurations here, and it looks like there is not going to be a win keyless version, by the way, guys. It's just going to be standard or HHKB. But even on the integrated HHKB top, it actually supports ISO.
Oh, right, yeah.
And normal backspace, which doesn't usually happen with when you have HHKB integrated tops. That I don't even know if that's ever even happened before, to be totally honest. So that's kind of interesting. You can support a surprising amount of layouts. Even with the HHKB top.
But I mean, if you look at the 60%, especially the right part is like just one big hole. So I'm not too sure about how I feel about that. I feel like the idea of the integrated plates is like it's better to do it with a more fixed layout, or at least less configurable layout. Like, okay, do it with the configurable enter version, so ISO or ANSI, and then maybe the split right shift, split left shift options, and the two different caps lock, and then maybe two different spacebar layouts, like the default 7U or 6.25U or something. This seems like a bit of overkill in layout support for an integrated plate version.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And to those of you that are watching that are maybe new to keyboards or new to the show, universal plate basically just means that it supports pretty much any layout that you'd possibly want within reason, which is why there's tons and tons of cutouts here, so you can put switches pretty much wherever your PCB allows. The upside to this is that it does support a ton of layouts, so you can kind of just pick and choose and get exactly what you want. The downside is because of all the cutouts, it can give you an inconsistent sound and feel because there's not always as much material around each one of the keys. So Yeah, pretty interesting to see that amount here. Definitely not something we generally see with fixed plates in particular. So, as far as the rest of the board is designed, how do you feel about it?
It's a nice, simple enough design. I mean, we have seen similar things beforehand with like the Rama boards or the Doro 67, something like that. The top looks pretty much like those, except for the badge in the upper right corner. And yeah, bottom design. I like the way the bottom peeks out in the front and to the sides. That's like a nice color accent.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
For the board, and the two versions they're showing off, the gray, black, grayish with the green, or the white with the baby blue. That's just really nice color combinations. If gonna be interesting if they have more options in the actual group buy, but those are already pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, for the price, you can't say much wrong about it. We haven't seen any of the PCB yet. This is just the case, and this is all renders, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
good renders, but renders.
Yeah, if it's to be believed, though, the PCB is going to be QMK and center mount USB-C. So
sure, that you can
presumably
see it from
a
the
decent
base.
PCB at the very least.
Yeah, just I don't know if the cutout for the slot might need some extra work, because normally you would do a more recessed cutout, so you have a bit more space around the actual plugin. So you can easier take larger connectors. Yeah, and fit them more flush with the case. So that's maybe something they might want to look at and work out. But apart from that, I mean, it looks solid, except, as we said, maybe a bit questionable plate variants. I think other integrated plate boards have done this with more fixed layouts, and I'm not too sure how this will work out in the end. Gonna be interesting if it's gonna be done like that. I would very much like to see how the typing feels.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely maybe some missteps, but I think the board overall definitely has some potential as well. So
absolutely.
We'll look forward to checking this out once it hits the group buy phase, assuming it does. Until then, there's a lot of interest checks today's, guys. There really is. So, I mean, it's just how it is sometimes. This next one made me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah,
when I first looked
absolutely.
So this is an interest check for the Wristbreaker TKL by Bisaromi, and as you can see from this first picture, you might be able to tell why it's called that. So, thanks for the link, by the way. Usually Jay does the links, and I don't really have to think about it. So if people were asking for links, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we do that."
Yeah. I just looked at the chat and who's failing at the links, and I'm just like, "Wait, I'm. It's me."
No, it's okay. We'll get through this together. It'll be rough.
Yeah. It's my first time.
Sorry,
guys.
It's okay. We're all helpful people here, and people are happy to see you. So, as you can tell from this first picture, the reason it's called the Wristbreaker is because the angle is absolutely asinine. It's completely monstrous. It's 14 degrees, which is, I'm going to say, way over the line of comfortability. It's particularly for me, even the duck boards at 11-degree angles are just too much for me. I can't even imagine typing on 14 degrees, but hey, maybe there's a market for it.
And then you add SA caps on that. I mean, if you look at this is 14 degrees plus SA. So this is like, I mean, you can basically put your desk a few steps down and still type comfortably.
Yeah. So this is pretty interesting. But aside from the ridiculous angle, the rest of the specs are pretty much as follows. It is going to be a top-mount TKL design with wind keyless blockers. It's going to use a very standard 1.5mm brass plate. It's going to use 2 brass weights, which is kind of interesting. As you can see here on the back, he has 2 separate brass weights here, which have the most enormous fasteners for them, by the way. Which is, it just really goes to the extreme over the topness of this particular keyboard, and I kind of love that he chose that. There's only going to be one version of this, guys. It's going to be 6063 aluminum, black anodized, no questions asked. There's no extras of anything. There's no other colors available. He wants to keep his first kind of real, true Keycap group buy to a very simpler terms, so he can actually make sure he does everything properly and gets it all out the door and doesn't have a bunch of different SKUs to mess with, which I totally respect for a newer group buy runner. There will be RGB underglow here, courtesy of 2 frosted acrylic diffusers on the sides. So this board is actually inspired by a lot of other boards that he talks about over here, including, you know, some OTD, TX, Duck, and TGR boards. So I believe that particular diffuser kind of solution is courtesy of the Duck designs.
Yeah, it looks like it. There, I think there's a video in the.
There is a little bit further down.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of the specs go, it is going to use a Heinebusch H87A PCB, which is pretty cool. That's going to be used with a USB-C daughter board. It's also going to be compatible with TGR Jane V2 plates, which is pretty interesting. The full built weight of one of these is going to be 8.5 pounds, which is about 3.85 kilograms, which is quite a bit.
A monster.
That's a pretty heavy board. It's going to have a limit of 20 units, so incredibly limited run of this, guys. And the group buy itself is going to start at the end of this month. And again, let me reiterate, no extra parts or colors. What you see is what you get, which I totally respect in a group buy. So what do you think about this monstrosity? This is pretty ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there you obviously can see there's a prototype board existing, so he has done it already. He already made a prototype, and so there has to be a thought behind it, and he has had to use it already and liked it in a way. I mean, I can't fathom to type on a 14-degree angle with SA, personally. I can't. But
it sounds painful.
It sounds painful, absolutely. I mean, apart from that, I kind of like it. It has, like you said, it has over the top elements in everything it does.
It's like a meme, but it's a good meme. It doesn't
in a way.
It goes really far out there, and it doesn't try to be normal, and I respect that.
No, absolutely. It was designed to doesn't hold back, so it don't. I mean, like just the. What was it? 8mm brass weight and this big fasteners. I mean, the bottom just looks redonkulous. I do like the engraving and like the lip where the engraving sits on the bottom. That's a nice design element.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could use this kind of board. But overall, I mean, for the amount of material you get and with all the features that are in it, price seems to be okay.
So they do have a listed price of $465, which will get you the case, plate, weights, diffusers, bump-ons, daughter board, and the H87A PCB, which is kind of nice. So I think the price is reasonable. I don't think it's particularly low or high, but it's well within the realm of normality for custom TKLs, especially with this much going on. And the
with such a low run. I mean, 20 watts is
such
not
a
a
low
lot.
unit run.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting, guys. This one, again, will start at the end of October. He doesn't have a particular date on it yet, but being only 20 units and starting at the end of this month, I expect it to sell out pretty quick. Just because people like to invest in the meme, I feel like. I'm going to be honest, it's kind of a meme board, but I do mean that in like a good way. It's fun, it's playful, it's kind of ridiculous, and it doesn't need to be anything else. So and
I mean, I just hope I'll have the opportunity to try it out at a meetup. I won't buy it, but I want to try it. Like, how
Yeah,
does it
yeah.
feel to type on 14-degree angle? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it hurts just looking at the pictures and imagining myself typing on it. My wrists hurt
yeah,
already.
yeah. They're just going like
But
I can fathom it.
that's part of the fun of it, man. It's for the
Yeah,
masochists out there.
absolutely.
I mean, you don't call it the Wristbreaker if it doesn't hurt while
No,
you're typing on it.
no,
And
it's
that's
aptly
why I
named.
love
Definitely.
that's why I really love the way he's going about this group
Yeah.
buy. So
Yeah.
definitely wishing him the best of luck there, him or her.
Absolutely.
Because this
and
looks
I
pretty
think
fun.
it will run in a good way. So I think the 20 will be hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually didn't check out the more. He has a link to more images.
Oh, right.
I didn't see that the first time I went through this.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna open
It's
up.
just a small link. So, but
Look at how big this backside is
Oh,
because of the angle.
yeah.
This is just.
Yeah.
This is like Godzilla.
I mean, this should be classified as a personal defense weapon. I mean, you can use this board if a zombie attack happens or something. This.
I can't wait for all 20 of these spots to sell. Everyone gets their boards and nobody types on them.
Yeah, it's just like a showpiece. Like, yes.
Yeah, most certainly a showpiece.
Or a weapon, either or.
Oh, a weapon, yeah. Keyboards are basically weapons these days.
This as a daily driver seems like a stretch, but hey, well, if it's for you, it's for you.
Rooster Cogbert says should have a small keyboard on the back of the keyboard. You could totally, fit that there. You could totally do that. Freaking Goliath, I love it. All right. Anyways, we spent enough time talking about this. Let's talk about another fairly ridiculous keyboard because there seems to be a lot of those these days.
Yeah. I got the best show this time. I mean, one ridiculous board after the other.
There's a few of them today. So this is the interest check for the Relic SSK, which is an MX compatible IBM SSK replica. Those of you that might not be familiar with the SSK, it is originally a buckling spring keyboard by IBM with a 10 keyless design. So it was basically a Model M that took off the numpad and you had a little bit of a smaller footprint. SSK stands for Space Saving Keyboard. So that was the idea here. It is very old design by today's standards, but a lot of people still like it. A lot of people still into a lot of the vintage stuff that IBM does and that type of category of keyboards. So this is kind of his homage to that. So instead of buckling spring, obviously, he's going to be using an MX format here, which is kind of interesting because those of you that might know a lot about some of the IBM keyboards, like the SSK, is it uses a curved plate and curved PCB to achieve a very specific kind of typing format here. And the fun thing about this board is that he is going to attempt to do something very similar. So I believe the plate itself is actually going to be an integrated 4mm plate, and he is going to use a very thin and curved PCB. This PCB is only going to be 0.6 millimeters. That's crazy. The average PCB in our community is 1.6 millimeters, and the thinner stuff tends to be about 1.2 millimeters. Here, he's going for 0.6 millimeters, which is ridiculous in my eyes. But I can't wait to see if this actually works out.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, it seems a bit large of a keyboard for 0.6 millimeter PCB to work. I'm not too sure if that's just not too much of a stretch, quite literally, to get it. But I mean, he seems to have put some thought into it, some research, and he seems to think it's doable. And this would be not. I mean, this would be a great thing to have. I like the aesthetics of the old keyboards, and combining that with modern switch version, MX switches, that would be nice, really nice. But yeah, that's just like I'm not too sure if the technical side will work out.
Yeah, certainly.
Right now.
This happens when you try to bring something that is more vintage, more classic, more old school into the modern realm, and that's exactly what's happening here. The SSK, obviously an iconic IBM keyboard that has a lot of support, and it's a fantastic keyboard. It really is, and they tend to sell for quite a bit, even on the aftermarket. And there's a lot of people on the lookout for stuff like this. So I think there's definitely a market for this. The PCB is probably going to be the defining point here, whether this is going to happen or not.
And it's hot swap.
Yes.
The PCB is going to be hot swap,
which is pretty interesting. They're going to have to they're going to have to somehow bolt the PCB, curve it, and bolt it onto the case, I assume, to actually make that hot swap reasonable. And the fun thing about a PCB that's this thin is it doesn't support PCB mount stabilizers. So we've seen in the past on some of the 1.2 millimeter PCBs, like H87A by Heinebusch, actually comes with spacers that provide the additional thickness to be able to use PCB mount stabs. But here, it's just too thin. You just can't do it. So he has to choose the plate mount stabilizer solutions here, which I'm not a big fan of because I don't like plate mount stabilizers, but I also don't like stabilizers in general. So, it's kind of just the way things are.
Well, you have to choose your fights, and I think in that case, it's the best you can do. But like I said, I'm really interested in the prototype he's obviously has in the works. From what I read here, and I'm really looking forward if how the PCB looks and if they show the inside and stuff like that. That would be really interesting.
I cannot wait to see the internals of this keyboard. I really can.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be pretty interesting.
That's just from the engineering standpoint, and it's really interesting.
Yep.
Most
definitely.
Also, good callback to the vintage stuff. They're gonna include a solenoid in it to get that typing sound out of it from the vintage boards.
Yes.
So
those of you that might not be completely familiar with what a solenoid accomplishes in a keyboard, it's basically a piece of equipment that will attach to the PCB and make noise when you type. We've seen this in boards like most beam spring models for the beam spring switches, and it can make a really interesting difference to give you a very interesting and artificial sound that is separate from the actual sound of your keyboard. I imagine it'll probably be able to be turned off, maybe if you don't like it, but it's kind of a fun addition and a very fun throwback, like you said, to more vintage stuff. So a couple of the quick specs on this that we know so far. It is going to have a 7-degree angle. It is going to use a QMK PCB with hot swap, like Queer mentioned. It's going to be CNC aluminum with anodization, and E-white, if you're a fan of the white coating. It's going to be electrophoresis, which we've seen a lot more in the community lately, which is nice. There's going to be a couple different colors. There's going to be an industrial gray, a black, and the E-white. So keeping it very, very classic. Only 3 colors here, black, white, and gray. Kind of more of another homage to the vintage stuff that doesn't do a whole lot of colorful work. It is going to be a win-keyless TKL design, so the standard 84 layout like you see here. Unibody top case with the integrated 4mm plate, and of course the solenoid and that very thin curved PCB. So I am really looking forward to this. It does have an estimated price tag of about $400 USD, which is really expected if you check out the actual design of this, and if they can get that PCB to work out, and especially with the solenoid involved as well. So price, I think, is pretty on point here. I think it's very reasonable, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of this, particularly the internals.
Yeah, and what I'm not too sure of is like the top design, the curved part of the top design, if it's part of the plate or if it's top or part of the top, because that's gonna be held to machine if it's really one block and everything carved out of it, like the curve in the on the F row, like the part that stands out from the render. It's not too clear if that's like its own part or not, But
Yeah.
anyhow, like
I mean, I guess it could use maybe like some kind of daughter board solution, but the plate itself is
yeah,
integrated, so it would stand to reason that it would be an all one uniform curved
yeah.
PCB design.
Whew,
Because
that's
it's
yeah,
it's ambitious.
yeah,
But if he pulls it
definitely.
off, it could be really, really amazing.
Yeah, and but it just then the price could be a bit higher than $400 in that case,
Yeah,
because
certainly.
that's complicated machining. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But I think when the prototype is done, I think that's going to be a good indicator.
Yep,
Yeah,
definitely. So we'll
keeping an eye out of that.
yeah, we're definitely keeping an eye out on this one. We'll check it out again once he progresses his way over to the group buy phase, as usual. Our next interest check comes from user Tobu, and this is the Canon 60, a custom 60% case. And the Canon 60 is not to be confused by Canon Keys or anything affiliated with Canon Keys, because I truly believe this is a entirely separate project, if I'm not mistaken. So just kind of a naming difference there. But anyways, this is a really interesting way to go about a custom keyboard, if I do say so myself. So as you can see here from this actually pretty good exploded view, there's multiple parts of this keyboard, and it's kind of unlike anything I've ever seen in the keyboard hobby. And the reason being is because it's effectively a tray mount keyboard that is encased in acrylic and held together with magnets. So something we don't see terribly often. So just to break it down a little bit, guys, this middle layer here that you can kind of see in metal, this is going to be either aluminum or brass. It's going to have a standard 60% plate and PCB, and so you can effectively use different plates and PCBs as long as they're standard 60% tray mount compatible. And the idea here is that that's the inside of the keyboard, and then on the bottom and on the top, there's going to be an acrylic layer that fits over the keyboard itself. So the idea here, trying to find the best picture for it, guys. Sorry, bear with me. I guess this prototype picture works. The idea is that you have a keyboard case that's enclosed in acrylic, and you end up with something like this, which is kind of interesting. And I definitely like the theory here. I like the idea behind this, but I'm not entirely in love with the execution of this. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I don't. I like it when I saw the drawing of it, like the exploded view. It's like, that's an interesting idea. And then you see the prototype pictures, and it's just like, I don't know. It looks okay, I guess. I mean, you can see obviously the metal through it, and that's nice. But I feel the clear acrylic case around it, just like you have a case inside a case, and the main keyboard and the main sound component and everything will be the metal case. I think the acrylic will have no effects whatsoever on anything like sound and typing feel. And I don't know, it looks a bit cheap, to be honest, like cheap plastic version of a keyboard, even though it's probably not cheap in a way. I'm I'm a bit torn. I like the theory behind it, but when I see the prototype pictures, I'm a bit like, yeah, I don't know.
That's okay. We don't have to like things that are shown on this show. That's the best part about this show. You can dislike stuff, and it's totally fine.
Yeah. No, and I'm just like, I don't want to sound like I hate on it or something. It's just like it doesn't resonate with me,
Yeah.
and in a way when I see the picture. So,
Like
but
like Upos brings up in chat, he says good theory, meh execution. I totally agree with
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
like
that's
I like the idea behind this. I think there's definitely potential there, and I think this could go in a pretty cool way. But it just looks kind of boring, and it's also a low profile design, which I think is kind of strange. Not just because I dislike low profile, but because of how large the rest of the case is, because of that
yeah,
overlayer of acrylic. Look how
yeah,
chunky this base is. It's huge. But it's still a low
absolutely.
profile design. I think because of that, it looks kind of funky. It's not the first time we've seen that kind of approach, though. In the past, some of you might remember the Level keyboard, which was a very small kind of prototype run by user Sir Cheddar. And the idea was it was a floating key, a low profile design, but it had an enormous base. And it was kind of an interesting idea, and I feel like that kind of worked, but here it doesn't really work. It's kind of caught in between this kind of like, the bottom is too big to be a low profile design, it's too tall maybe, And it comes out looking kind of funky. But I think this could be an interesting idea.
And it has no typing angles.
That's true.
As I can
it
see.
is,
So it's pretty much flat.
Well, okay, so the normal case does have no angle, but there is going to be an attachable steel block, presumably by magnets, that you can use to set your angle to 3 degrees, 5 degrees, or 7 degrees, which I do like. I do like the idea of adjustable angle. I think that works pretty well. So, anyways, a couple specs before we move on here. The outer case is going to be a clear, polished acrylic. That's right, polished acrylic. You heard that right. The inner case is going to be either brass or aluminum. He's still debating on which version he'd like to go with that. The faceting method is pretty interesting here. Like I mentioned before, it is using magnets. Neodymium, if I'm pronouncing that right. That is the type of magnets. I've never said that word before in my life, so you heard it here first.
Who has?
Yeah, so he doesn't really want to use very many screws here. The only screws that you're going to be using here are the ones that are going to attach the PCB and plate assembly to the actual internal case there, like you would any other normal 60% tray mount. That's nothing new. We've seen that before. But he has all these magnets here, both above and below the internals here, that lock on the acrylic outer layers. And it sounds like, I presume that the foot system here, to get your adjustable angle, will probably also be mounted with magnets as well, which I think is pretty cool. I feel like we don't utilize magnets enough in this hobby. Even, like, I'll be honest, like, it's not like they're necessary, obviously, but I think there is space to be able to use magnets specifically for mounting solutions that we could be using just for fun, if nothing else, just for difference.
Absolutely. And especially if you have like non-load bearing parts or something, if it's just like a cover or something you just put on, that would make it easier to change stuff out if you just have to pull a bit harder to get it out or something. So definitely an option.
Yeah, so the plate is going to be 1.5 millimeter, either brass or aluminum. Standard 60% stuff. This is effectively a 60% standard tray mount case with some fancy outer shell stuff going on. The metal parts will be PVD coated, either gold, silver, rose gold, or possibly black or chrome. He's still deciding on that. And, of course, like any other tray mount, the case should fit all standard 60% PCBs and plates, basically. Pretty much everything. Standard design. So kind of an augmented tray mount here with a bit of an outer layer going on. And, I'm not sold on it yet. I think the potential is there. Yeah. This particular design is not really doing it for me. But I do appreciate that they have a working prototype for their interest check.
I think maybe I think maybe milky acrylic or something could work better, just to set it off a bit somehow. But yeah. Anyways, maybe things will get changed. Of course, still an interest check. Anything could happen. So we'll have to check this out again once it hits the group buy phase, and maybe there's been some alterations at that point. And just one thing, I think the name doesn't come from the canon, but from the musical canon, like
there's only one N in it.
Yeah. So
which is probably why they don't actually show it
because of the music notes and the bottom weight.
I wonder if in this album he has a separate album with more pictures. I wonder if he actually has a picture of the weight that isn't a render.
Yeah, that isn't a render. No, I think.
Okay, well, he does have it rendered at least, so he has kind of this musical design going on in the bottom here, which is kind of cool. But obviously, that's going to up the price a bit too, having all those cuts for all those different weight parts. Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Anyways, moving on. Another keyboard interest check. Big surprise. I knew you were surprised there, Quir. So caught you guys all off guard. Fantastic. This is the interest check for the Smol TKL. Smol being obviously community slang for small. And boy, this is a tiny one. So this is effectively a mini TKL PCB that still has some cases in the works. Fairly low-end sandwich mount kind of style stuff. But the idea here is that you get what is effectively a 60% with a navigation cluster added on to it. So an F-row-less TKL, if you will, as you can see in this picture. And, oh wait, did I forget the link on this one? Sorry, guys. Blame Quer. Hashtag blame Quer. He's a host today.
Yeah. Querdelay. The links are Querdelayed.
Quer delay. Fantastic. Nebula on it too. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Nemo.
Fantastic. So, yeah. There's not a whole lot going on here. This is effectively just kind of a no frills, no bullshit F-rolless TKL PCB, and they're still working on some case options for it. They want to keep it kind of inexpensive, obviously, so it's looking kind of like a sandwich mount style design.
Most probably, yeah.
Is this a layout that you're interested in?
I like the idea of it. I think it depends very much on how the case is gonna look. If you're gonna use the extra space you're gonna have with the extra arrow cluster to do something interesting with it, like from a design standpoint. Because otherwise, just from points of space and key usage, you can just go with a 65% board, and
that's true.
Pretty much the same.
That's true. You're not really gaining functionality here over a 65%. So
yeah, it's just a bit more footprint, and well, you have the offset arrow cluster, so it's a bit easier to like maybe use it without looking than with a 65%, depending on how you do the layout, and you get the full right shift if you don't split it or something, which with a 65% you always have the split right shift.
Yeah. But how many people really need full right shift on a board that is 65%? Let's
Probably
be real.
No one, but yeah. But some people still like it, so I don't know. I think it's a thing, but
I think the benefits of this are lost on me personally, but I can see why someone might want this if they want something that is, effectively smaller than a TKL, but still has the arrows and navigation cluster in the same spot that your hand has been used to. Maybe you've been typing and coding for 20 years of your life, and you're just used to these specific spots, and you have to have them, and no other spot makes sense to you, even a 65%. Then this could be totally for you. But yeah, I think to me that seems to be pretty much the only benefit, because otherwise there are so many other options that you could go with.
Yeah, and what I find curious is that they decided to not use their own MCU design or integrate the MCU onto the PCB, and instead opted for a Pro Micro solution. So you can see it in the upper right corner. Yeah. So you have to get a Pro Micro and solder that in. Well, I don't know. These days, I think you can just it's not that hard to get those components integrated onto the PCB, and we all know that Pro Micros have their cons in usage. Yeah. Well, you could use the newer ones like the Elite C, I think.
Yeah, there's the Elite C, Proton C. I think there's a couple others as well.
Yeah, so those have less problems with that, but then you're depending on the case design to support the USB-C port. So yeah, we'll have to see how the case design works out.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, the advantage here is if you have a naked PCB like this where people have to solder on their own things, they tend to be very, very inexpensive, because naked PCBs versus fully soldered PCBs straight from the factory have a massive price difference. It's really big. So it's you're gonna save a lot of money, but you're gonna obviously do a lot more work because of that. So.
It also depends how large the group buy is gonna be. Do they have any numbers? How much?
I didn't see one.
No.
At least.
So, I mean, depending on the numbers, there are enough people that will do you pretty cheapish, let's say it that way, pre-soldered board. Like Martin, for instance. So, I don't know. But yeah, I obviously I can see that the price point and the versatility of choosing your own Pro Micro variant is something that can be seen as a plus point on this, and that if you have any problems, you can just solder out or switch out the controller without having to throw away the whole PCB. Sure.
Yeah. So like I did mention earlier, he is still working on a 3D printed or 3D printable sandwich mount case. So, if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, then this could totally be for you.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to another board here that is actually 3D printed as well, or at least this particular version is. This is an interest check by Snevok for the Kingfisher Round 2, which he is claiming is a budget 50% keyboard. And just like we were talking about earlier with the TMO V2 and the Equinox before that, we're starting to see more of these 40 to 50% boards that are able to be used with slightly more normal compatibility from GMK sets, for example. And this one's pretty interesting. So this is going to be again a budget-friendly kind of PCB / keyboard. QMK PCB with mini USB, which is kind of interesting. We're not seeing USB-C here, so kind of unfortunate there. But
yeah.
It is what it is. Maybe he has his reasons. I just can't think of one. So how do you feel about this particular one?
I mean, sure. It's 50%, so it's a bit out of my realm again. I think such small boards are pretty much unusable for me personally. But I think it has good layout support, maybe a bit much layout support even. There's like, I don't know how many different versions of the spacebar layout you can do. It's like too many.
Yeah.
That's gonna be interesting. I think what I like is the way he did the blocker compatibility. So like you can just print out blockers if you want to do wind killers, which looks kind of good actually.
Yeah, it actually doesn't look
surprisingly.
Too
bad.
Yeah. The layout here is actually, for me, it's fairly usable. One thing I dislike about sub 60% boards is how often they sacrifice punctuation keys, like your colon, your semicolon, your apostrophe, and brackets and question mark and stuff like that. I mean, I use all of those keys so frequently that it's hard for me to not have them on the initial layer. And that's where I kind of have been liking these 50% boards, is because they don't always sacrifice that. This is effectively a 60% without the numro, basically, which I can get used to a lot more than something that's an entirely different layout.
Yeah.
So.
And another thing, it's also apart from the one key in red in the KLE, is also trying to do it with a GMK base kit, and that the 1.25 key would be the wrong row profile. Basically, everything else would fit its row from a base kit.
Certainly,
so,
yeah. And just like
again,
the previous run of the TMO 50, which also had the exact same issue right there, they used a 1.25 U key, which is pretty much always going to be a row 4 key in a standard GMK base kit. You effectively have to do that again right here, which isn't really that much of a problem. You could put a 1.25U control there. It's not going to kill you. But, it's definitely an interesting choice. But I like the idea of, again, being able to just buy a GMK base kit, not having to buy extra kits, and being able to outfit your smaller boards. It seems like we're getting more into a movement of that, which I do appreciate a lot, even though I don't use boards this size, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
yep.
I think it's a nice idea.
Yeah, certainly. So he does have he's targeting a couple different options here, a couple different price points. So he's looking at a $125 price point for a sandwich acrylic case design and a $225 price tag for a sandwich aluminum design. So that's kind of interesting. So he's showing off 3D printed prototypes here, but it looks like he's aiming for the finished products to either be in acrylic or some kind of metal. Your camera also turned off, by the way.
Okay. Well, it's not a stream if nothing goes wrong, right?
That's very true. It would not be a Top Clack live stream if nothing went wrong. That's okay.
Most likely.
Sorry, guys. We'll get back up soon.
Just a second.
All right. So, anyways, a couple more specs on here. The PCB color is undecided, but he wants some input on that. And yeah, there's a little interest check form there if you guys are into this at the bottom. So,
And we're back.
Very nice. Whew. Fantastic.
That was easy fix. That was an easy fix.
Nebulan says, "Is this the EU regulations on video length striking again? They're taking out all my EU co-hosts. Oh no."
Well, that's living under the EU thumb, right? But,
Just
yeah. Like I said, newcomer setup. I haven't worked out all the kinks yet, so let's hope it's just that, and for the night we'll have it. Don't have it again.
Yep. So anyways, guys, make sure to check this out if this is more your thing, and we'll check it out again once it hits the group buy phase. Speaking of group buy phase, something that has already came and gone in group buy phase, but this one is a little bit different. This is a flash group buy, and if you're familiar with flash sales, it's kind of similar to that. So this is a group buy that's going to be open for only a few days. So this actually opened on the 8th of October, and it ends on the 14th. So only a 6-day group buy on this one. So if you missed the first time, the Honeyboard 60 rant, which is actually the keyboard I'm using right now, I actually did a build stream of it not too long ago. You can check it out there if, on our YouTube channel if you guys are curious. But it's effectively a sandwich mount board with a very interesting internal design that augments the sound quite a bit. So I'm going to try to find a good picture. Okay, so fantastic. This perfect first picture here has this kind of honeycomb cutout design that has some designs that are cut out here, and they kind of vary in depth. So at the front row here, you have the shallowest row, and then it gets a little bit deeper in the middle and a little bit deeper farther back as you go, as the angle of the keyboard goes up. So really interesting design. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I do, but I think that the design really does benefit the sound a lot, especially if you like a deeper, thockier sound. This board accomplishes that really well, even for having a universal plate, which I was really worried about. This board actually does type pretty well. I think it does feel pretty good. It does sound really nice. So you can definitely check out the VOD for that one if you guys are interested in my build stream of that. We're not going to talk too much about this because this did just run in the normal group buy format not too long ago. This is kind of just like a flash group buy, so if you missed it there, maybe check it out here. And link, guys. All right, sorry guys, I'm on it. Bam, link.
Damn it! Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The camera just.
Queer delay.
I'm a bad host. Yeah.
No, we're fine. We're fine. We're getting through this, guy. It's rough, but we're getting through it.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, a pretty good looking board, and I do really like the internal cutout design there. I think it does help the sound quite a bit if you like that particular thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, pretty standard stuff. 4-degree angle on this. Again, the universal plate. There is going to be multitude of top options, though, so you are going to have your choice in HHKB or the standard top, which is I thought they were doing a win-keyless one, but I guess I was wrong. My bad, guys. Price, $290 starting for the basic colors, and the more premium colors, you can pay a little bit more for those. So $290 plus shipping. This is another situation where we see that the designer and the manufacturer are the same people. And they're actually pushing out. So we get a little bit of a price benefit there. We don't have a middleman to go through, a retailer to mark things up a little bit. So sub $300 board, I think, is pretty darn reasonable. It fits pretty much every 60% PCB that I am aware of. And here are your color options there. So how do you feel about this one? Have you seen much about the Honeyboard yet?
I've seen your build stream of it. Well, parts of it, at least. And I really like the idea of not only having a design element in the board, but also like configuring or changing the echo chamber of the board, like by engraving something into the bottom and trying to enhance or maybe accidentally enhancing the sound profile of it. And I think that's something that could be done more often than instead of concentrating on a weight design or something, just like have the bottom designed in a certain way to shape the sound of the board quite literally. And from what your build stream sounded like or the results, it came out really nice, and I really loved the color options on this one. There's just such a vast array, And I'm always particularly to the design option that the plate comes through and acts as an accent piece to the whole board. Like it's the same way with the ANSI, for instance. Hoping the camera focus right, yeah. Like this. I think that's just an simple but really impactful design choice for keyboards. And yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty nice case, pretty nice option, and pricing is reasonable.
This particular picture with the rose gold finish and the HHKB top with GMK minimal, or not minimal, sorry, this isn't actually minimal. I don't know what set this is, but it's basically a black on white that isn't minimal. And I think this picture is absolutely stunning. Whoever did these renders really got me going here, because this particular picture really just sold me on it.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, thankfully I have one to use already, and I have been using it for a while. So, but yeah, the pictures, the renders here, absolutely gorgeous, and I have been enjoying the board. So glad to see it going back up for sale for people that maybe missed out on the previous group buy. Oh, Max Surfy did these renders, man, he is getting good. This one in particular just blows my mind, man. Like, this is just too good.
But also the exploded view is also really, really nicely done. I think.
Certainly. It gives you a good idea of how everything is supposed to be put together there.
And it's in a creative way. It's just not your default exploded view like a technical drawing or something. It's done with a bit of style.
Yeah, certainly.
And I like that.
And those of you that maybe didn't see the build stream and are curious and have a very astute eye, and you see these recessed holes for the screws for the sandwich mount plate, this actually comes with O-rings, and you put O-rings there, and then you put the plate on, then you put the top on, then you screw it together. So it is sandwich mount, but it is kind of augmented a little bit with some O-rings to kind of clean up the sound just a little bit more, which definitely helps in this board, because universal plate, which tends to have a disadvantage of leaking sound really, really poorly, and the fact that the bottom has a design that, whether it was intentional or not, definitely alters the sound of the keyboard. So, yeah, pretty happy about this one. So make sure to check that out if you guys are interested in something a little bit different, a little bit more out there. All right, so moving away from the keyboards themselves and moving over to some key sets. It wouldn't be a Top Clack episode if we didn't have a bunch of GMK interest checks.
This time it's pretty much a lot of keyboards, I feel like.
Yeah, we've had more keyboards this episode than we generally have. But moving over to the key set side of things, we do have an interest check for GMK Finer Things by Abec13, which is a user that has been making a name for himself as a very good renderer. Now he's kind of doing a little bit more design work here as well. So GMK Finer Things is kind of foray, I think, into his first GMK interest check. And this is a pretty interesting one. So I'm going to open up the base kit here so you guys can see a little bit more. And what do you feel about the colors of this one?
They're definitely striking. Like they're really bright.
Very bright.
Very bright. But they're also a bit harsh. Like the contrast, I'm not too sure if this comes out, if this is true in air quotes for the actual caps. I think they just might be too bright, and especially with the white legends, I think the contrast might not totally work in a real version. But that's looking at renders on a uncalibrated monitor and stuff like that. It's always hard to tell.
Certainly.
But I like what's the English word? Teal? Tealish color?
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be kind of like a Tiffany blue kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, Tiffany, right? That's just like maybe a trademarked color, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's actually supposed to be what it is, but it kind of reminds me of Tiffany blue, which is obviously Tiffany is like a luxury like jewelry. I don't know, maker, manufacturer. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
But obviously it's themed around like a jewelry kind of thing. And which is, quote unquote, finer things in life. So I feel like that's kind of the overall theme here. But like you mentioned, the contrast, that really worries me. Because normally we don't see too many renders that have contrast issues, and maybe it could just be my monitor. I don't have a color calibrator, unfortunately. And, being colorblind doesn't help either. But the contrast worries me a little bit in this, because even in the render, it feels a little bit hard to actually depict the legends on that particular color of the keycap.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very potentially a low contrast set, but it's hard to know if it's going to work until it actually happens, right?
Yeah.
We don't want another issue like. Do you remember SA Chronicler? Were you around when that set ran?
No, I don't think so.
So that was a set that had that actually looked pretty good in the renders, decent contrast. It came out and you couldn't see the legends on the keys on the actual caps. Yeah. Like the contrast was that bad; it looked like blanks at a lot of angles. And I'd worry that something like that could happen here as well.
Yeah, the only situation I can think of is like with the mods from GMK Violet Tendencies, where you have a similar issue, like the contrast is too low to distinguish. Well, it's not as bad in reality as it's in pictures, but yeah, I feel like the renders here are generally a bit bright overall, and that's maybe not helping. But yeah, would be interesting to see maybe different renders of this, to have a more definite idea how it's gonna come out. But
definitely,
yeah,
it's
apart from the contrast.
Sorry.
Yeah, apart from the contrast thing, I think the color is nice and something that's a bit missing in the array of key sets we have.
Yeah, it's a very ambitious set, and I'd like to think with, how much experience that Abek has rendering in our community now for so many people, that he probably has a good general grasp on what should work, what shouldn't work. His renders here obviously are very good, unsurprisingly. Yeah. So I'd like to think in my mind that he's good enough with colors and understands contrast well enough that he should know whether this set is going to work or not. And I want to believe in him, because obviously he probably knows more about it than I do. But, from a consumer standpoint of just us looking at it right now, I worry about the contrast for sure.
Yeah. And
as far as the rest of the set is concerned, it's broken down fairly well. We are seeing this kind of super minimalistic style of base kit, obviously that forgoes both the numpad and ISO support. I know you weren't super happy with this particular kit breakdown when we were talking about it before the show, but it is, being an ISO user, I imagine it's probably
and numpad user. So, well, at least those things combined. But yeah,
unfortunate. But in this instance, you only have to buy one additional kit, of course. So they are doing the ISO numcat. Wow, I can't talk today. Numpad kit. They bolster each other there. I know this is being something that we've seen a little bit more recently, where they combine the ISO kit and the numpad together, and they kind of bolster each other. So if you need ISO, you have to buy the numpad kit with it. If you need numpad, you have to buy the ISO with it. So it's kind of like I don't know, I'm not going to call it a good way around, but it's certainly a way around trying to hit that MOQ by having two effectively separate kits in the same kit. As far as the novelties are concerned, I actually think they're pretty good in this set. Maybe a little too busy for me for some of them, particularly the camera and the moped or Vespa or whatever this thing is at the bottom right. But I do think it's pretty successful as far as a novelties kit is concerned. How do you feel about them?
It picks up the Tiffany theme. I can identify most of the things. A few of them might be not doable for GMK, like you said, the intricate design of the camera or something that might be too fine a detail to actually be produced. So there might be a bit additional rounds necessary with GMK. I don't know how far that has been done. But yeah, they fit the theme. I'm not a fan of the what's the key on the enter.
The enter, yeah.
I don't think it fits the other ones quite the same somehow. but overall, yeah, you can see the theme and they fit the theme, and that's the best thing you have with novelties.
Yeah, certainly. Moving on, there's also a 40s and ortho kit, of course, as per pretty usual standards these days with GMK sets, as well as a spacebar kit. So, pretty nice and simple interest check here. I like also shout out to the fact that he rendered on the Avenue, which is I actually really like this board. It's really obscure and not a lot of people know about it. But one of my favorite things is when people do renders on boards that are not like generally popular.
Absolutely.
So like most people, everyone always renders on TGR Janes and the Rama, like all the Rama boards and Key Cult stuff or whatever. But like when you start throwing out boards that like no one even like knows about or owns, like I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it helps to push the boards. Like if you have an interesting GMK set and it's rendered on some boards and people like, well, I don't know this board. What is this board? I need more information about this board. That's always nice.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and it's a really cool board.
It is a really cool board. As far as the rest of the information for the set, well, we pretty much just don't have it. So vendors have yet to be announced. He does have a little bit of a to-do list here, and of course, shout-outs and mentions section, like a lot of interest checks have these days. So very early interest check, but just some nice kit breakdowns and renders from someone that is good at doing that kind of thing. So we'll have to see what happens. Maybe some things will be changed a little bit. Maybe contrast will be heightened a bit, depending on what kind of information he gets back from GMK. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll check this out again once it hits the group buy phase.
Looking forward.
Next up, we have another GMK interest check, and this one is pretty.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, I know. I never saw it coming. All right, so this one is called GMK Splash, and this is pretty interesting. So, those of you that have been around the community for more than a couple years, this probably looks like a pretty familiar key set to you. Do you know what key set this is, Quir?
Let me think. It's blue. Might have to do something with water. It's GMK Hydro.
Yeah, so this is effectively GMK Hydro, and he doesn't really beat around the bush with it either. The first sentence of the interest check is, GMK Splash will be a rerun of a classic colorway with the addition of an R5 bottom row. So that's kind of interesting. So the fact that he's blatantly just coming out and saying it's a rerun of a classic colorway, we can obviously see that it's Hydro based on the colors. It's kind of interesting because if for many of you that might not remember, GMK Hydro was ran in 2016, I think, by Jay Chan of Clack, and he has pretty much since removed himself from the community. So it's kind of hard to say whether people are stepping on feet here with redoing colorways that have been ran before that aren't theirs. It's kind of hard to judge whether this is A, right, or B, wrong. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what chat thinks about this, guys. So
there's, if you look at the notes and comments section in the a bit further down at the end of the post, there he is addressing just that point. I think that wasn't there before, but
I don't know if that was there before when I first looked at this thread. Actually, I don't think it was.
I've just noted this too, and it seems like he talked with Jay-Chan and. Jay-Chan says he has no interest in rerunning GMK Hydro, and this sounds a bit like an okay from him, but
yeah, it's interesting that he replied to this, but he doesn't reply to anybody's thoughts on rerunning GMK Muted, which has obviously been a key set that a lot of people want reran. It's arguably one of like the top 5 most popular GMK key sets to ever exist, and a lot of people want a second run of it, and he's kind of just been saying nothing about it. So it'd be kind of interesting to maybe come out with something like that as well. But anyways, Hydro was also a fairly successful key set. A lot of people liked it, and looks like it's effectively coming back with a different name. And one thing I did find that was kind of interesting about this is he does have the base kit quoted at an MOQ of 150, presumably stock colors, obviously, for only $100 US, which is pretty darn reasonable. And obviously, this doesn't have a ton of compatibility. There's no numpad. There's no ISO support. But it does have pretty much everything else you need aside from those two things. Just kind of a slimmed down version. But I do like seeing $100 GMK base sets. That is something I do like seeing, especially at 150 MOQs. Are we going to get a price break at 250? Are we going to get a price break at 500?
I don't think so.
Could we see an $80 GMK base set? That'd be kind of cool at like 500 MOQ. With this limit of compatibility, could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I mean,
let me dream, Quer. Let me dream.
Well, yeah, okay, you can dream. I'll let you have your dream.
Thank you.
But in reality land. No, the
I hate that land.
Who doesn't? It's just most group buys these days run well. They determine their price break point beforehand. Like they say, well, we're gonna definitely make 250 MOQ with buyouts and everything, and price it at that point, because most vendors can't handle all the refunding and all that stuff, because PayPal and all the credit companies, they're making this stuff harder and harder.
That's true.
So you have one price point, and you're sure if somebody's going in and saying like, yeah, we're definitely gonna hit the 500 MOQ point, and then we can offer it for $80, then you probably can have that. But GMK Hydro, 500 MOQ, I don't know, maybe. Muted, on the other hand, definitely.
Easy 1,000 sets sold for Muted.
Yeah.
Easy, if not 1,500.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as I stated often enough in other formats, I'm not a fan of the super minimal base sets. I understand the idea of getting to this magic price point, like $99. That's just like a magic number. But in this case, like, you have all these additional F keys, and you can't add like the 4 keys you need for ISO support.
I kind of agree with that.
We already have a small left shift and stuff like, or smaller left shift, not the real one. Yeah, it's just like things like that annoy me a bit. Like when people always argue, yes, you have to have less keys so you get the price point, but then you find all those keys in it, and there's no room for like the minimal ISO support. That's just like, eh.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's reality today. But
this base kit could be structured better. I think when you're aiming for such a cheap base kit and you are cutting out compatibility that is fundamental for a lot of people, like ISO, like numpad, and various things like that, and you start adding in accented F keys in place of stuff like that, it's almost a little disrespectful. Because no one needs this, right? Like you already have these keys. It's just a fact of wanting to add more accent keys, wanting to have a variance on your F keys, even though they're already there.
Yeah, and I think those variants were in the original base kit for Hydro.
Originally the base kit for Hydro was huge, because that's how Keycap like to do stuff like that. Just one base kit, you don't need anything else, and it's just big.
And it was a huge kit, but it had everything in it: ISO support, numpad, and a lot of bottom row stuff and stuff. So, and it's just like little things. Like you have all these F keys that a lot of people won't use anyways, because like 60% no F keys. But then you have only the 1.25 win keys. Like there's no one new win key or something.
Yeah.
So you have to use super in that. If you're gonna go down the 7U spacebar route or something. So I don't know. I think the key, this could be structured better for a base kit.
Certainly,
and put the F keys in an additional.
Could you imagine a $100 GMK base set that includes ISO support?
I could. I think that if this can hit that price point, it should be definitely doable. You will have a very minimal key support, but you would at least have like the minimal support for ISO and like the default 2 bottom rows and stuff like that. So it should be doable, and for at that price point. because if you can have these many keys at that price point, the 4 keys for ISO should be possible. Definitely.
Yeah. Neb's pointing out you mean like Nautilus, which I think did on drop or mass drop at the time reach that $100 price drop, and I think Nautilus did have. Did it have numpad and ISO in the base kit?
It was an old base kit basically.
Well, yeah. But you got to realize that that's also selling a lot of units. That's not a 150 unit sale for that price. That's like I think they sold over 1,000 base kits on that.
Probably, yeah. That's a lot of price breaks, definitely in that. But it's generally hard to compare drop to anything else.
Yeah.
These huge kits are like Oblivion Round 2 this year. Like those kits on drop, they just sell and they sell hard, and that's something you can't match outside of drop.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong. I mean, the numbers are really good in the community. Like they're earlier, like 2 years ago when I started with the hobby, it was impossible to think that you could support a key set outside of drop. There was just, you couldn't do it. And now these days you have so many kits running outside, but you just don't get these high of numbers, or it's very few in between. I think what Bento and Metropolis were probably two I can come up with that hit 1,000 base kits, I think.
Yeah, there have been quite a few recently that have been doing well. Obviously, Dixie Mech has been seeing a ton of success. Both GMK 8008, GMK 9009 did really, really, really well. And obviously has Dracula going now, which has had a really, really big start. That's doing really well so far. Yeah, well, I mean, but back in that time, back when Nautilus first ran, mass drop was that option to get a 1,000 base kit sold. No vendor in the community was able to accomplish that at that point in time. This was obviously 2016, 2017. But nowadays we have these vendors that have become much larger, Novel Keys, Dixie Mech, that are able to crack these 1,000 MOQs pretty easily with some sets that have a lot of potential. So
and at that time when Nautilus, for instance, ran, or the old GMK Hydro run, you didn't have 5 GMK group buys per month or something. Just like it was easier to get people excited for your key set because there weren't that many. These days it's harder.
Yeah.
So yeah. But as I said, looking forward to the additional kit designs. I think there should be a bit of a redesign of the base kit. To have more support and less additional accent keys, I would call it, in it. But yeah.
The space kit needs to be restructured, but I like the idea behind this. I like trying to get that $100 price point even at 150 MOQ. I think that's really, really nice.
Yeah.
The rest of the info still to come. He hasn't done any of the other kits yet. And there's no proxies yet or anything. So very, very early interest check. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll check this out again. I would like a rerun of Hydro. So I would be in favor of this. I do like Hydro. I think it's a pretty successful set. So glad to see that it's coming back with the blessing of Clack as well. All right, moving on to some other blue GMK goodness. This is interest check for... How would you pronounce this, by the way? I want you to say this title before I do.
BlauGrau.
Okay. So I'm not even going to try to say that. So, anyways, I'm just going to call it GMK Blue-Gray because I'm an American and I can't say words that are not English. I'm really bad at saying words that aren't English. But this is by Undercover Brother, aka a brother that is undercover. And I think this is his first full GMK key set design. He has previously done things such as the white on black and black on whites accent kit, or alpha kits. I'm trying to remember. It was Hiragana? No, it was Hangul, right? I think it was Hangul. I don't know. I'm losing my mind right now. But
yeah, there's so many add-on kits for black and white and white on black.
There's so many add-on kits now. Yeah. It's cool though. Add-on kits are pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, this is his kind of foray into a key set design, and this is kind of a no bullshit design, which I like, and he does mention that too. The idea for the set is blue-gray, that's it, no accents, just blue and gray. And the idea behind that is he doesn't want to have accents, so he can be allowed to add ISO support into the base kit, and it should keep the spacebar kit nice and cheap. So he's kind of going for one of those full-fledged GMK base sets like we were used to seeing back in the past, with the ISO and the numpad, which is pretty cool. Like seeing
and
that.
it's even ISO UK. It's not basic ISO. It's a full ISO UK support. So
yeah,
it's even more keys.
Yeah, he's a man that likes to please. It seems.
At least the ISO crowd.
Yeah, definitely. So, what do you think of the color of this set?
It's definitely bluish. I like it. I don't know if it's a set I would use, but I like the colorway of it, and he has the picture of like the raw color, which he's which he wants to base it on. I just feel like we have seen a similar set recently. And that was the first thought when I saw the pictures. It was like, wait a second, I've seen this before, or something similar.
What set does this look like to you?
GMK Denim.
Oh, okay.
And if I scroll down a bit, and I think the second answer to the post was just like that. This looks like GMK Denim. Yeah.
Interesting.
I've looked up the GMK Denim, and it's a bit different. The mods are different, but the alphas look nearly the same for this and GMK Denim. So this is probably not done on purpose or something. This is just like he had picked out his colors and put those together and stuff like that. This is just like two minds thinking the same. But yeah, I obviously like the kit design. I mean, this is, I think, how a base kit should be structured, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a simple, nice colorway, and if you like those colors, I think this could be a good fit.
Yeah, I think
especially for gray boards.
I think we've long since passed the point in time in this community where you can kind of claim sets are copying other sets, because there are too many sets. There are just too many sets that are in interest check and group buy constantly that are, in one way or another kind of similar to another set. It's unavoidable at this point. It's like actually unavoidable. So like it's too rough. It's too harsh to say that this is GMK Denim per se, or this is another key set or whatever, because it's just, you're always going to have some kind of crossover with another set. You just are. That's just how it is now. There's too many sets in existence.
Absolutely.
This is GMK Olivia, guys. It's just different colors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just pops out right there.
Yeah, the rose gold, it just comes at you right all at once. But yeah, blue gray Olivia. There you go. I think it's a nice set. I think the base kit is pretty nice. I do like the full-fledged base kit design for GMK. That includes the numpad and the ISO. Obviously, I don't need it because I'm a very simple user. I'm an Anzu user. I am totally in favor of the cut-down base kits as well. But for the sake of helping out others, I like that some people are still doing this particular design.
Yeah. And as he mentions, in cutting down on the colors he's using, like no accent stuff, and using that free space for having these basic support keys in there, I still think you have a nice price point for that in the end. Yeah. So because it doesn't come at the cost of additional keys, you're just redistributing the keys.
Yeah, exactly. Like you spend like 130 or 140 on this base kit, and it's way more valuable than buying 4 kits at $220 or something.
Yeah, and every kit you have to buy, like especially if you have an extra ISO kit and an extra numpad kit, every extra kit increases the price because you have fixed costs associated with every kit. So it's not just like you're splitting up the costs, you're adding extra costs with every kit. So this makes it easier for people that use ISO and numpads, and much less expensive for those people, while being probably not that much more expensive for people that don't use it. But yeah. So
definitely. So it's looking pretty good so far, though. So definitely looking
Absolutely.
forward to seeing this hit group by Phase. He does say that the earliest this set will be running is April 2020, which is still obviously 6 months away, and not surprising. A lot of vendors, even some of the smaller vendors that aren't quite as large yet, have really backed up GMK sets because everyone just wants to run a GMK set right now. So like most vendors are backed up several months on sets that they're running, and that's kind of just the way it is. See this is our artificial queue time now. So instead of being backed up on GMK's side, we're backed up on our community side because we have too many designs that we want to run, and there aren't enough vendors to be able to run sets, consistently enough.
I would be really interested in getting a quote from GMK that's just saying like, we can run these many sets still, like we have still capacity for this, just give us more, we can run more.
Yeah, well, we learned recently that GMK is going to be adding more machines. They're planning to up their production by 25%, which is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So hopefully, they'll be able to handle what we throw at them. But obviously, like we're bottlenecking on vendors nowadays. Yeah. Because everyone's backed up 6 months. So
I think even with the amount of sets we are running, like still the numbers don't compare to like orders they usually get from like the manufacturing OEMs where they normally sell the keycaps to, like other keyboard vendors or something. I think those numbers are still much, much higher than whatever we can throw at them. So it's nice to get the production increased to have more versatility. But I think still they are not going to have a sweat with the stuff we're going to throw at them as a community.
Yeah.
Certainly. For now.
All right. So look forward to this one. It'll be coming at you in roughly 6 months, at the very least. We can,
well, still no signature plastic time, so
that's true. Well, signature plastics only has like one machine, and they do like 2 keys. At so
and they can't get new ones.
Unsurprisingly. Anyways, let's move on to a pretty interesting topic. This is an interest check for GMK Glow by user Hellas, and this is something we've never seen on this level before. So this is effectively a completely glow-in-the-dark GMK set. And we have seen something similar in the past with other profiles, and we have seen glow-in-the-dark GMK be at least attempted before with, I believe it was one of the accents from GMK Mizu, or one of the novelties. But we've never really seen a full glow-in-the-dark GMK set before, which leads me to my question: have people been asking for this? What do you guys think? Is this amazing? Is this super cool, or is this like really, really silly?
Well, we already had glow-in-the-dark switches,
which I feel like no offense to novel keys, but I feel like those switches flopped. I really don't think it was a popular switch.
I haven't seen them in any build yet.
Nobody uses them.
Let's say it like that.
What's actually kind of ironic is I'm using them right now, which is pretty funny. But like, you never see anyone else use this switch. Like, it just doesn't happen. Because like glow in the dark is kind of silly. Let's be real. But we've never,
especially on the Switch. I mean, on the keycap, I can see it more than on a Switch.
I feel like this is kind of a fun idea, but I feel like our community might not care enough for this set.
Yeah.
Because aside from the glow-in-dark aspect of it, it's effectively a black and white set, which, we've seen from GMK before. We've had GMK Monochrome, which was like the exact same color configuration.
Pretty much, yeah.
So the selling point here is the glow-in-the-dark. So the question is the glow-in-the-dark worth it?
For me personally, not. I don't see the point because I can't shut it off. I mean, it would charge over day, and at the night it would glow. I can't shut it off like I would with back light or something.
You just put like a towel over your keyboard at night before you go to bed?
Something like that. It's just like if I don't want to have something radioactive like glowing in my office space or something, I don't know. It's just like it's one of those ideas that are kind of fun, but I don't think I would pay money for it to have it
I
in a
feel
way.
kind of bad about it because I mean this guy has he has this idea. He even paints a little picture of the theme. He was searching for his daughter's pacifier crawling around on the floor, and he found it because it was glowing in the dark under her bed. And it's like that's kind of cute. Like you kind of you come to this realization like, oh, like GMK set, like that could be a thing now. Like there's like thought behind it, and I do appreciate that. But I just feel bad because like I really don't think this is going to be a successful set. It's probably not even going to run. And I hope I eat
like
those
you mentioned, yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, GMK still hasn't actually produced their first glow-in-the-dark keycap. That's going to be one of the novelties for Mizu.
Yep.
And we probably would be better off to just see first how they're going to end up with that, how that's going to come out. Like if it's the first time they're doing it, there might be production problems or something. Maybe it's not even doable for them in the end. I don't know how much they already invested in investigating if they can do it, or if they have done something similar beforehand. So before designing or doing or committing to doing a full set with this, maybe wait up how it comes out. And yeah, it's a novel concept. Maybe for some people it's a nice idea, but I don't think it will have a big impact and might struggle with MOQ, I think.
Yeah,
but
he does mention that he is waiting for the Mizu novelty to see how successful that is before he does anything with this, obviously, which is a good idea.
Sensible,
and obviously, like we were talking about previously, vendors all having like a 6-month GMK lead time now. Anyways, he obviously has time to kind of fine tune this and get it to where that he wants it to be. Hopefully, so I hope this works out for him, but I struggle to see it working out for him.
Yeah.
I don't think glow in the dark is popular enough in our community. I don't think people care about it enough.
No, I think so too. But we'll see. I mean, there are other things where we thought, well, this can be a good idea, and well, sometimes it does. Well,
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. There's only one vendor lined up so far. It's going to be Candy Keys in the EU. Everything else still to be announced. So still kind of in the early planning phases. He definitely wants feedback though, because he's curious of whether he should do maybe like a full light kit. He's got a Black Alphas kit here. Maybe you can kind of go for like a darker kind of theme here, and there's a couple novelties as well. So definitely a lot to take in, a lot to consider for him or her. Yep. So we wish them the best. Hopefully this works out for you. Yep. All right, let's move over to something that's actually happening. It's not an interest check, I promise.
Whew.
Yep, this is the...
Took its sweet time.
Yes, this is the group... I almost said interest check, too, just because I'm so used to
yeah.
Like, interest check is just always, like, the words that come before GMK in my life right now. So, like, here is actually a group buy for GMK, and this is GMK Phosphorous, something we checked out in interest check a while back that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. And this is a set by Moridin. I don't know how to pronounce that name. But this set is currently live, and you can find it in the U.S. over at the Key Company. Shout out to the Key Company, one of our sponsors. As well as Daily Clack over in the Oceania territory, and MyKeyboard.eu. And in Asia, it's going to be Ilum KB, which we've been seeing a lot more of lately. I believe that's Lewis's store. He's a really nice guy, and he's been doing a lot of proxying lately. So glad to see him being successful at that. So this is a pretty interesting kit breakdown. I don't know how you feel about this one. So this one actually forgoes the numpad, of course, in the base kit, but it does have the ISO support and a bunch of accent/novelty kind of esque keycaps as well.
Before I talk about that, I have to leave for a second. Gonna go AFK for a second. Be back right now.
No problem. Okay, so guys, while he's gone, I'll take you on a little tour of this set, obviously. So I personally like this colorway quite a bit. And I like the overall theme of this. I think this works pretty successfully. I like the base kit a lot too. I'm not sure how successful the base kit is on like a value standpoint. Obviously, you're foregoing the numpad, which cuts down a lot of keys, but you're still including the ISO there, and you're still including a lot of accents too, which I thought was pretty interesting. So he has a lot of these kind of these dot accents here. There's a few on the row 1 escape row as well, and then of course you have these. I don't know, because it's on the periodic table. Kind of similar to how Carbon went, where they included the C, kind of the what's the word I'm looking for, the periodic table of elements or whatever, the like the actual the values of it on these keycaps. I think is pretty awesome. I think that looks really nice. I think the colors are pretty nice as well. There is a numpad kit, of course. This is called Protons. I also love the way these are named, by the way. I'm always a sucker for different naming schemes for kits. So the base kit, Nucleus. Numpad kit, that is going to be the Protons. The 40s kit, that is called Quarks. And then the Spacebar kit is called Strong Force. I am not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, so I have very little idea of what a lot of this means. But I do appreciate the fact they're doing it anyways. So the Strong Force is going to be your Spacebar kit, and of course your extra B for your Alice type layouts. And then the Neutrons kit is going to be what is effectively your Nordic kit, which is pretty nice as well. So they cover a lot of bases here. You all right, Quir? You back?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right.
Sorry for that.
No worries.
Drank too much coffee.
Hey, man.
Trying to stay awake.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta drink coffee.
Yeah, that's easier on a podcast. You just cut out that part and be done with it.
But when you're live, you can't do anything.
Yeah. Just different mindset.
Yeah. Anyways, I just broke down the kits basically. How do you feel about this set overall?
From a kit perspective, I really like the way it's structured. I mean, obviously, ISO support and base kit. That's nice. Also has novelties in the base kit already included, which is a nice way of having those. And and obviously Nordic UK support. I mean, that's always really nice for somebody that's using different language, like I do with ISO DE as a German. And it's just, I'm a bit neutral on the colorway. It's just, I don't know, that the blue is not my tone for me personally. It's a bit too neonish for me to be like considerable, I think, but it's overall a nicely done set. I think the inspiration was like from renders for a Rama board. So it has a bit of a pedigree to it. And you got all your bases covered. I mean, even the extra B for Alice in the spacebar kits. And the kits are also very nicely named in position to the seam of the kit.
I agree.
So
I love that.
There's a lot of right in with the group buy. So, and also got to mention that it's one of the cheaper Norde kits in current group buy phase. So for somebody that is looking for a not really cheap but cheapish way to get their Norde UK layout support, this is definitely a kit to check out.
Oh yeah, only €53. That's pretty good actually.
Yeah,
I think
especially if
I imagine
if we're gonna.
Yeah, I think the euro and dollar are really close to each other. Yeah, because the Nordic kit, even on the US proxy, the key company is still $53.
Yeah.
So it's like a 1-to-1.
And you have to consider that the UK the EU prices, so my keyboard EU already includes tax. So
nice.
That's nice. So that's a really nice structured set, and I think it's going to do well. In another month, it could probably have done better.
You think so? You think this month there's too much competing with it?
With a set like Dracula running in the same spot, and there was another thing. That's later. I think you have currently like 8 sets running.
I'd have to pull up the calendar, but yeah, Cafe, Dracula, Firefly.
Firefly Camping round 2.
Crimson Cadet still running. There's
Crimson Cadet, Then Sandstorm was running at the beginning of the month also. So a lot of sets running.
But that's just our community now. Our community is just now 10,
absolutely
10 plus GMK sets every month. That's just how we're doing this community right now.
Sure. But like I feel there are some high profile sets that might like take money out of pocket from people that could have or would have bought this if it has been another month. I feel like.
That's fair.
But I think it will do mock on the most of the kits quite easily. So I don't fear for the kit, but it could have done better maybe.
I personally like the blue quite a bit. I think I don't think it's going to struggle to hit MOQ, but again, like you said, there are a lot of things, a lot of higher profile sets running than perhaps this one, admittedly. But I think this is still going to be a pretty successful run, personally.
Absolutely, yeah.
I also really appreciate the simplicity of the desk mat.
Yeah, that's something we haven't seen in a while. Like a simple desk mat. Most of these are just like pattern desk mat.
Yeah, a lot of them are kind of over the top, honestly. And one thing that Jay and I have been really, I guess, first world problem upset about is the fact that like a lot of the desk mats, like the parts that are cool on the desk mats are the parts that you cover with your keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, because it's in the center of the key mat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You got to realize that as a desk mat, people are going to be putting stuff on them, and you should be putting the stuff that you want to display, in spaces that people are actually going to be able to see.
Yeah,
and
I think Zerika was one of the better examples in that regard. That you had the accent pieces on the outside corners, and it accented the whole board in the middle.
Certainly, yeah.
That's a nice design. And here with the offset on the left side, it works much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure to grab this now if this is something you're into. Of course, group buy is still currently open, and there are all of your lovely, lovely proxies. All right, let's move over to another set that is currently running. GMK Dracula. This is kind of a pretty hyped one. A lot of people have been waiting on this one, and this is
absolutely.
Yeah, this is a colorway by Piku Alu. I think is probably how you pronounce that, but I always butcher usernames on this show, so don't.
Sometimes some are really hard to pronounce, or even guess how to pronounce.
Yeah, well, he's also. I mean, it looks like he's from Finland, so it's probably like a name or words that I've never even heard before. So it is what it is. Anyways, GMK Dracula. A lot of people have been waiting for this one, and it's finally out. And I think, I don't know if Dixie Mech is still in chat, but I think it's already like at 500 units sold, or like something really, really high for only being open a couple of days. I think it's selling really, really well, or something like that. Which
Starton says 500 sets in 5 days. Hype.
It's at 500 kits already. Okay, yeah. Core is 562 right now. That is outrageous. That's so wild for only being open six days. Yeah, it opened on the 4th. So that's really, really impressive. So again, I think the breakdown here is pretty darn good. They have a base kit that does include the numpad and basic ISO support, but not anything beyond the basic. But it does have a lot of pretty decent compatibility. And the base kit's only $130 at Dixie Mech, then €135 at mykeyboard.eu, so pretty damn close to the same price point there. Yep. And there's a lot of compatibility options. So there's and again, we're talking about how they name their kits after the theme, which I appreciate a lot. So the highlight module here is your kind of like super bright, vivid, high contrast accent keys, which is kind of nice. And then you have the night mode module, which is one that I'm a big fan of, which is the kind of it brings the key set into a little bit more monochrome territory, a little bit more two-tone, as opposed to having a bunch of different colors in the base kit, which I'm not a big fan of, and I never have been. I didn't like it on Penumbra, I didn't like it on Solarized Dark, I didn't like it on any other key set, but a lot of people do like
Oblivion. Basically all sets that are based on IDE themes.
Yeah, exactly. So, but hey, a lot of people do like that, but they do have the night mode module, which is my kind of kit, because that would make the key set a little less colorful, which is my personal preference. There is a white space module, which is your spacebar kit, which does include a lot of kind of accent spacebars as well. Then there's the Minify kit, which is effectively your 40% kit. It's going to get you a lot of support for that, as well as split spacebars, Alice B, stuff like that. And then there is the localization kit, or module, rather, which is going to be your Nordy kit. So, nice. A lot of coverage there between those. And of course, there's also a command module, if you're more into that kind of thing. If you're an Apple user, I suppose is what that is for.
Yeah.
I like. Also, I this took me by surprise earlier because I thought it was a typo, but he does have the command module kit starting at $999. Of course, that's not the actual price if you go to the vendors pages, but I thought that was
that would have been funny.
That would have been funny.
Honestly, like.
Yeah, and then there's. I am not an IDE user. I don't know what any of this stuff is because I'm not a programmer. I'm not a coder or anything. But there's also the error kit, error. I don't know how you would pronounce that.
Yeah, error probably like.
It's supposed to be error, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to call it the error module, which has a bunch of kind of novelties here of different colors, accents, and maybe some text-based novelties, basically, which I'm a big fan of, as well as your Vim keys, if that's more your thing. I'm a really big fan of this critical error enter key.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty amazing. I would buy that kit just for that key. So yeah, and of course
it's really bright, colorful kit. Really
it is
nice.
Yeah, and there are a couple different Rama keycap options as well. So you kind of have this black and white monochrome Dracula eye sort of thing going on, and then you have the more traditional error key for the Rama novelties, so that's pretty cool. And desk mats looking pretty okay as well. This is the easy way to do desk mats, where you don't have to cover up anything. You just have the same pattern repeat. That's fine as well. It's simple, it's clean, it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this colorway overall?
I'm a huge fan of the Dracula IDE theme. I have it on all my IDEs. I have it on my terminal shells, and wherever I can activate it. And that's the good thing about Dracula. It's on a lot of apps available that have theming capabilities. And I was pretty much set on buying it, but for one point I didn't, and that's like the Nordic kit is 71 euros. So even if I only get the base kit and the Nordic kit, I'm already out 206 euros. And I really want the Arrow kit too. So I'm 250 something euros, 260 euros. And that's quite a lot. And with some other expenses, it wasn't doable for me this month, and I'm hoping I can get extras. But I think this is a really nicely done colorway. I think the translation from the IDE theme to the keyboard worked really well. And yeah, I think some people are a bit hesitant because of the brightness contrast with the glyphs, like the colors on the alphas. Something like that. Not the other IDE themed key set that's coming out soon does differently. That's a bit more muted in that regard. So yeah, but I like the different colors. I like these type of themes. I'm already bought Oblivion Round 2 just for that, or at least for that. And yeah, if it wouldn't be for the cost of the Nordic kit, if that would have been the 50s, but I understand why they did it, because this price is at the 50 MOQ from GMK, and Drop or Mass Drop did something similar with their kits, but it's a steep price increase, and I'm questioning if MOQ wouldn't be better off at 100 MOQ, but the $50, €50 price point. But yeah, we will see. But the set is doing good enough that hopefully the MOQ will be hit on all kits.
Yeah, certainly. It is a very popular key set right now, to say the least. So
Absolutely.
it is selling very well. So that is that. All right. Speaking of keycaps that are very colorful, this next set not very colorful at all. But that could be a good thing depending on what exactly you like. So this was actually kind of teased at the last Seattle meetup, I believe. Novel Keys had a prototype set there. But this is effectively a Tai-Hao Cubic set with the black on white colorway. I'll try to pull up a better picture here for you guys. And the idea here is that it's a very inexpensive double shot ABS black on white set. So only $40 here. Obviously, it is Tai-Hao Cubic profile, which isn't super popular in this community. I feel like a lot of people have not even tried it. I tried it years ago when it first came out, and it's fine. It's not terribly different than OEM. It's definitely taller than Cherry. It's very square, very blocky. But you know, for $40 or less, it's a pretty decent buy. I feel like it's always nice to have very inexpensive or entry level products or kits in our community, and I think this is definitely one of them. So I'm glad that they decided to bring something very cheap and inexpensive to users that can't always pay $80, $90, $130 for a key set. So very, very
Absolutely.
nice. And they actually don't look too bad too. They look pretty reasonable. Aside from this very crooked caps lock key on this particular board. So this is clearly not a render, guys. This is actually the set. Because you wouldn't render a crooked caps lock like that. But, well, maybe you would.
Maybe someone...
Maybe you would.
I'm questioning the flip spacebar, but...
Hey, no, that's perfection, all right? Flip spacebar is perfection. Don't even start.
I don't question it for... typing, that's okay, but if you shoot a photo of a board, unflip your spacebar.
It does look a little
triggering.
All right, I'll give you that.
But as you said, I think it's a nice option. I think Tai-Hao caps are the gateway drug in a way. I mean, they're inexpensive. They are easily accessible, and they even have certain colorways in ISO DE or other ISO ways. So even people that normally can't easily get cheap keycap sets can get something like this. Not this particular, but this doesn't even have ISO support, if I'm right. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. But it's a pretty cut down list of compatibility.
Yeah. But if you fit into this bracket, I think it's a nice set. It looks quite fine. The crooked caps lock is hopefully something.
That's probably just the board.
With the board, not with the
it's probably just
cap itself. Switch. Because the rest looks just fine. So,
yeah,
if you're looking for it,
it's nothing special, but it's there.
No, yeah, and it's not another GMK set, so there's something for that. So
that's true. Yeah, we haven't really seen a whole lot from Tai-Hao. I feel like in our community in quite a while. Like you said, it was like the gateway drug, and it was for like a long time. My first aftermarket set was a Tai-Hao set back in 2014 or whatever. Yeah. Tai-Hao used to be a lot more popular, but now obviously there's a lot more manufacturers, a lot more vendors doing a lot more things these days. So Tai-Hao's kind of taken a back seat, but I think that the Tai-Hao's double shot ABS is fine. I am not a big fan of their PBT. I feel like their PBT feels like sandpaper. I don't like that, but their ABS is okay, and I think the price point here is pretty reasonable for the limited but okay compatibility that you get.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna talk about our sponsors for just a second here, guys, and then we're gonna move into a Q&A. But just to give you guys a couple more minutes to prepare, we are going to be moving into a Q&A section, of course. So if you guys have questions, you can start asking those right now. You can use the @TopClack tag so I can see it a lot easier. But anyways, let's talk about some of the awesome people that support us. Starting with Zeal Generation over at zealpc.net/TopClack. That's an affiliate link, so it doesn't cost you anything extra, but does help us out quite a bit. It's got a few things going on right now, including the pre-order, which is still open for the Aqua Xylants, which I still have next to me that I need to freaking use. I need a board to put them in, though. Just forever waiting, man. This hobby is just forever waiting.
Yeah.
But the Aqua Xylant Switch group buy is still open, so you can still get those at the slightly reduced price there for $1 a switch. in 2 different weightings, of course, the 62 and a 67 gram. Those have been selling actually pretty well, so I think that's why he extended the pre-order. But if you're not into silent switches, he does still have his normal lineup available, including silent switches like the Helios. He does still have some of the Roselios and Sakurios in stock. He's got Linears, which are the Telios, if you prefer that. If you're more of a tactile kind of guy or gal, you can get the Zelios, of course, the namesake switch, or the Xylence, the normal Xylence, if you like silent stuff. So yeah, make sure to check that out. zealpc.net/topclack. Affiliate link helps us out quite a bit. All right, Corey, take us away.
Also sponsoring is Novel Keys, which has just arrived with GMK Firefly. That's another GMK group buy that's currently running that we forgot.
You're 1 section off. Look above that. Look above that.
Foop.
It's okay. It's okay.
Production. Sorry.
Live production stuff.
Yeah. That's what you get when you're unprepared. Right.
Redo. Start again.
Rewind. Quedulate this. Okay. No. In this case, we're Novel Keys, and we're going to start off with GMK Pretty in Pink, which is, as the name implies, a pink add-on kit. And the really nice thing about this is that all proceeds of this kit are going to go to breast cancer research. And I think I already bought my kit, and I think it's a really nice accent, the color. And it's a huge accent key set, so you get a lot of compatibility. You will always find some keys that will fit on your current layout with this. And I think it's a must buy. And it's inexpensive with $40. Or what was this?
45.
40, I think. 45.
Close
okay,
enough.
sorry. Well, it's something. And also GMK Camping Round 2. We mentioned that this is one of the group buys currently running. That GMK Camping was a hugely popular set in the first round. And I think the round 2 will also do very well. And it's a really nice nature-driven set. And also available is something not from GMK. It's JTK, the Vostok 1 set, which is a really interesting set that's very Russian inspired and obviously has the Cyrillic sub-legends in the base kit, and you can buy a normal alpha add-on kit, and it's JTK, so really cheap. And there's a huge novelty kit also as an add-on kit available, which is also nice. So general, nice to see that JTK is doing more stuff.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize it until now, but the base plus Latin alphas is only $9. No, I'm sorry, it's $6 more than the normal base.
It's ridiculous. So I don't even know why you wouldn't take this set. I mean, this $6 is nothing.
You get all these keys for $6 more.
Yeah,
that's actually
ridiculous.
That's pretty good.
So that's definitely if you like the colorway, and I think it's a nice one. Go for it. And also we just talked about it, the Cubic black on white kit. That's also available on Novel Keys. And if you buy from Novel Keys, you can use the promo code CLACKERS. That's CLACKERS. To help you out and to help us out.
Yes, absolutely. All right, next up we have Input Club over at Kono.store, who has a few things going on right now, including that GMK Firefly group buy that Quir was preemptively mentioning before for $120. Pretty nice looking set and a pretty good price, if I do say so myself. They do have Night Foxes and White Foxes back in stock. Those seem to sell out quite a bit, so tend to be doing pretty well. They also have the White Fox Artisan collaboration with Tiny T, who is also sponsored by Kono, interestingly enough. And this is a super, super cute, adorable collaboration project, and I'm pretty excited for this. I'm definitely going to be getting one. And of course, they do still have their entry-level Hex Gears collection for a lot of entry-level OEM boards, if that's more up your style. Maybe you're trying to convert a friend or family member to the community, but you don't want to break the bank and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can pick up one of the nice Hex Gears boards that they have here for a very, very low price for a pretty good feature set. All right.
And next on the sponsor list, it's KBDfans. I think everybody in the hobby has ordered at least one time from KBDfans, so that's a name you should know. New with them is they have extras from SA Leviathan, in stock. Now it's my time to butcher the pronunciation.
You're speaking a language that isn't even your native language. I think you get a pass here.
Yay, free pass.
You're doing well.
Exactly. And extras from that are available now if you missed the original group buy. Also, a really huge bunch of new PBT key sets. Some of them even in true double shot. That's new, I think.
That's pretty new.
With them. And again, pretty nice price point for those. If you're looking for something like that, this might be yours. Also, this is interesting, 65% carrying cases. That's something you don't see too often from vendors these days.
Yeah.
Especially around that price point, I think.
Yeah, $35 is pretty nice.
Yeah. And while you're looking at at this stuff we just mentioned, there's also a lot of new kits and items for your next keyboard build to get, which are really nicely priced. I mean, for the stuff you can get from them, that's just nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, we have our newest sponsor, the Key.Company, repping the shirt right now, who has a few different things going on right now. Of course, just like we talked about earlier, they have the GMK Phosphorous group buy going on right now, which is that pretty cool Phosphorous themed set there. $129 base kit, pretty decent compatibility, including some basic ISO support, so nice to see that as well. And of course, they have Rama caps and desk pads available with those as well, if that's more your thing. If maybe you're more into the PBT side of keycap stuff, you can still check out the Infinikey Bread or the Infinikey Sanctuary Rebirth PBT, which is that Diablo 2 theme set with the really interesting new legends. Pretty outrageously large base kits for $120, so you get an insane amount of compatibility. Because I know how you guys feel about compatibility. Because I like it too. I like compatibility.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Also, yeah, so lots of cool things going on there, and I don't think it's actually listed. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Let me double check here. The Molly keyboard. Sorry guys, my throat's super dry. The Molly keyboard launches tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So that's coming really, really soon. So make sure to check that out. All right, let's get to the Q&A. Oh, sorry guys, I'm getting sick. I've been trying to constantly drink water this episode, so my throat's not dry, but I can't really avoid this cold, it seems.
And that's always hard.
Yeah, man. I feel like I've been getting sick for a week now, and it just hasn't quite fully taken hold.
Oh, that's the worst. I mean, I rather spend 2 days in bed and get done with it than having it for a week or two and just always on the edge of maybe not.
Yeah.
It's just annoying.
I've been drinking this throat coat tea, which helps a little bit, but it helps for an hour, and then it kind of starts to fade. So I started the show with some, so I was fine, and then I'm just kind of now I'm just dying.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the Q&A segment, guys. So if you guys have questions for either myself or Quer or both of us, make sure to use the @TopClack tag, and we will get to your question before we head out for the day. 10 Strong is going to start us out with a question. It says, Brian, I've seen you type on a lot of different gasket implementations, ranging from smaller screw gaskets on mini boards now, the JO1/Kepler huge frame gasket to the gasket ring on the 356 Mini. Can you speak to the difference of these implementations have, and which is your favorite implementation right now? That's a really good question, because indeed I have typed on a lot of gasket mount boards now, and using a lot of different methods. Let's see. As far as the differences, I tend to feel that the more gasket material that you have in the board, regardless of what method you're implementing, the more you notice it, which seems like a really elementary discovery, but that's kind of just how it is. I feel like the gasket has been more noticeable on boards like the Kepler and the JO1, which do use that. It's not a super ideal gasket solution. It is maybe a little primitive, but I think it is also really successful. Where it's just kind of like you have a 3-layer gasket system around the PCB, and the PCB is kind of just suspended there and compressed by the rest of the case. I think that works pretty well. I feel like that gets the point of gasket across more in the actual typing experience. I feel like it does a pretty good job of that. So probably the Kepler JO1 kind of solution, I've been liking that the most. But, I mean, we're splitting hairs here, too, because a lot of the other ones do feel really similar. Like the Key Colt number 2 and number 1 revision 1, as well as, what else used that method? I don't know. But, like, that whole method was, also pretty successful. I feel like it almost doesn't matter how you do it. It's just the fact of you doing it or not. Again, splitting hairs. Like, I don't think gasket mount boards are wildly different from each other based on the implementation. They all wind up feeling and sounding very similar in the end. I don't know if you have a different experience with gasket, Quer.
I haven't had as much experience with gasket. I have like one true gasket, or like the JO1. That's the one board where I would say this is a gasket board. But I mean, I think Jay describes it best when he calls it isolation mount system, because the idea is not to soften out the typing feeling or something. It's to completely isolate the plate from the rest of the board, to have only the switches and the plate material influence the sound, except, well, obviously from the board itself. And you can really recognize that with the JO1, but it's still, it maintains a hard typing feeling. When you compare this to something like the Unicorn, that has like an O-ring gasket around that rests on the tabs on the bottom, which works more to soften out your bottom out in a way than to influence sound, I think. There are a bit of differences, but I don't think if you do any of these kind of like mounting systems where you just soften out the contact between the plate and the piece and the case, that they are vastly different. They're just like different implementations of the same idea, as you said. But something like these complete isolation mounts, like the JO1 or Kepler, they are a bit special in that regard. That's from my limited experience so far with gasket. But I think gasket is a bit overhyped in the community. Just like now everybody's doing it because everybody's expecting it, but I don't think it has as much influence as some people, or as a lot of people think it has.
Yeah,
from my experience so far.
That's fair. I think it definitely does make a difference. It certainly can make a big impact, but it's not always a night and day difference. It's not a life-changing event per se. I do think that the typing experiences tend to be a little softer, which I like more, because obviously a lot of the times you're typing into a gasket versus typing into the metal of the case. But really, the primary benefit is going to be the sound. You're going to get a much cleaner, much more precise sound. It might be a little bit quieter, but it's a much more direct sound. It's not something that leaks a lot. Like I reference the TX60 a lot, because the TX60 is a sandwiched mount 60%. It's a nice board. Comes with a universal plate though, and like that board just leaks sound so bad, and it's like, that's like my sound leakage test bench board. And like when you compare that to like pretty much any kind of gasket mount implementation, it's like that's actually night and day. So yeah, I definitely gasket benefits, but like you were saying, isolation mount is kind of like a subset, I guess, of gasket mount, or vice versa, because gasket mount is what people were calling everything when it first started becoming popular. Now we have, bagel mount and burger mount and isolation mount and
yeah.
I don't know, insert random words here and call it a mount, but like I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe a little overrated now, maybe a little overhyped, but it definitely does make a difference, and I think it's often a very positive one. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, sure.
All right, keep the questions coming, guys. By the way, I know there's not a whole lot of them right now, but we can get a few before we take off here. Rooster Cogburn is asking, looking at the key set calendar, there are 15 sets running this month and 10 more sets running next month, and Q1 2020 already filling in. Do you think the mechanical keyboard community has grown to a point where it can support this many group buys in 1 month? Do you think they will all make MOQ? What do you think might be the future effect on group buy market of this sudden influx of new key sets? Wow. Okay, so a few questions in one, but they all pertain to the same general theme here. So key sets, lots of them running lately. Is this going to be our future? Is this going to be successful? Are we going to crash and burn at some point by trying to run this many sets? It's hard because it's so new, right? Like we've only had this quote unquote issue for a couple months now. So we don't really know what the extent of the community is on whether we can handle something like this. I think we'll have a better idea in maybe 2 or 3 more months on whether this is going to be the way things can work. Right now, it looks pretty promising. Like you're seeing almost every set is hitting MOQ. Almost every set is hitting MOQ. And a lot of them are crushing it. Like Dixie was saying earlier, like he hasn't run a set yet except for SA Bliss that hasn't cracked more than 1,000 base kits. And like that's a lot. And these are running alongside other sets as well. Novel Keys, same thing. I mean, Novel Keys is running like 3 GMK sets right now. There are like 3 GMK group buys going on at Novel Keys right now, which is wild to think about. But like
my keyboard EU runs 8 or something, 7 or 8 at the moment.
Being the general common proxy for the EU, they're proxying a lot of sets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. But it's a tough question. I feel like we don't have quite enough info to see yet whether this is sustainable or not. Right now, it looks like it is. Right now, it looks like we're going to be running at least 10 plus sets every single month, and at least 9 of them will probably make MOQ every single month. People seem to have the money.
Yeah,
this tends to be a hobby where people have spare money. That's kind of just the way it is. We're not in this hobby out of necessity. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of us are, but we're not buying a bunch of GMK sets based on necessity, so it's a moot point.
Oh, absolutely not.
But, yeah, so I think that right now it seems pretty successful and pretty sustainable. Whether it'll be like that forever, I would guess yes. I think this is just going to be the way our community is. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Pretty much the same. I think the community has reached a size where it's just easy enough for most key sets to find enough people to make MOQ. I mean, you have sets, MOQ is between 150 and 250 sets, depending on custom colors, etc., etc. And I think this is pretty easy to do for most sets. Like if 150 people buying your sets over like multiple vendors, like different like EU and NA and Asia, that's doable with the community size we have reached. So making MOQ with all kits, that's another story. So you need like 40 kits or Nordic kits or stuff like that. I mean, even that we now have multiple sets that are running Nordic kits outside of drop is a huge step. And even if they don't make MOQ, they already make good numbers. And that's an indicator how much the community has grown over the last year or 2 years. And I think, yeah, there will be some sets that won't make MOQ, sure. But that is the way it's going to go. And maybe some sets would make MOQ and are pulled for other reasons, like recently Rocket, which will probably rerun at some later point. I feel like maybe there should be more organization to synchronize the different group buys so they're spread out a bit more. I mean, the more group buys we're gonna get, the harder this is gonna be. But maybe if all the vendors are like synchronizing each other and saying, well, I've got currently this, and this in the pipeline, and currently I've slated it for this month. What do you have? And maybe find another month. Like, if it doesn't matter so much if you run a month later, then your key set is going to release a month later. As we talked about, GMK is upping their production value, the chain, and I don't think that's the bottleneck. So maybe there's something to be done to help some sets make MOQ, but in general, I think the community has reached critical mass. So yeah, it's going to be a bright future.
Yeah, certainly.
Except if you're a collector and want to have every GMK set released, then you have a problem.
It's like not possible anymore. And unless you're like truly just that rich and you can spend, thousands and thousands of dollars every single month on GMK. But just like we were mentioning before, GMK obviously not going to be the bottleneck here, really. I think a lot of it's going to come down to the vendors and whether we're going to see either more vendors running GMK sets in the community, or we're going to see vendors start taking on more than one GMK set per month. Which obviously Novel Keys has been doing a little bit of lately, but most vendors don't run more than one key set a month. Because they don't always have the resources to handle it. But if we can get all these vendors that are reputable, that are established, like like Dixie Mac, like Novel Keys, like Canon Keys, Project Keyboard, like if the Key Company, like all these people, the list goes on. Like if we can get all of these people running 2 or more GMK sets a month, I think that'll keep the flow a lot nicer. We'll get a lot more sets out in the wild a lot faster.
Yeah,
which
definitely,
which could be pretty interesting. All right, 10 Strong asking another question. Favorite linear switch/switch material with palm. Does palm uniquely affect creams in your experience? Well, I mean, creams are already a fully palm switch. I'm a little confused about the question, I think. Favorite linear switch/switch material with palm. I mean, creams are my favorite linear right now, if that's what you're asking. And obviously, I think because they are all palm, they do have a unique feel and sound. So yes. Are you familiar with creams or other palm switches?
No, I've ordered some creams, but as it's me, they are quite delayed. I don't know when I'm getting them. I'm waiting for the restock from my keyboard.eu. And then that's going to be my first experience with those kind of switches. But I hear good things about them if you handle them right. That's so far what I learned from them. But then people seem quite to like it. If they're worth the effort now that like the Gatorade inks are out, I don't know. I mean, there's certainly differences between them, but Gatorade inks seems to be the easier solution for like good linear switch that feels good, sounds good, is good.
That's true.
So we'll see.
I mean, inks are incredibly popular. Creams are certainly more of an acquired switch. I feel like it's maybe not as popular, but maybe that's why I like it too. I tend to gravitate towards stuff that other people care less about. That's kind of just how I do the things in this community. But I think creams are actually like really, really a super interesting switch, and I think that they definitely have a very unique sound profile. As far as plates are concerned, I think that palm is still far and away my favorite plate material by a wide margin. It gives such a unique sound signature and feel that it's hard to deny, and you can't really replicate it with anything else. So yeah, I'm still all aboard the palm hype train. I can't tell when I'll ever get off. Mithril rated with a party of 13. Thank you so much for that raid. That was very kind of you. Functional asking, what do you like about the creams? How are you lubing them? So I've only had them lubed so far with 205 grade 0, and they still, I actually have the board right next to me. They still work totally fine. They're very, very incredibly smooth. They're creamy, if you will. No pun intended. Yeah, I haven't really experimented with many other lubes, unfortunately. I know a lot of people like that PTFE powder on the creams. I haven't had an issue with the 205 grade 0 personally, so I don't know, but I'd be interested to try the PTFE. But no, it's still standing up pretty well over time for me. Absolutely love this board. As far as what do I like about them, I think it's the sound profile overall. It's a much deeper, I mean, because it's a denser plastic, it tends to trap the sound in a little bit more, and it's a very nice stocky kind of sound. It's deep. So yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
That's why I think they are interesting, because it's similar to the way like you have this holy, or with penders basically, because the housing. That's another thing that's interesting about holy penders as a hyper tactile switch, is that the housing gives them a certain sound signature, and I think that's the interesting part about the creams too, because you can get smooth linears an easier way, I think.
Yeah, certainly.
Than the creams, but the sound profile is unique.
Yeah. All right. 10 Strong clarifying that he meant to say fave on palm plate. Does palm plate affect creams uniquely? Oh, okay. I completely misunderstood that question. My favorite switch on palm plate actually is Zelios V2 right now. That's what I have in my Kepler. It's a palm plate with lubed Zelio V2s, and it is heavenly. It's like, I don't know, it's like when you're in like a super tranquil place, like in nature, and like you're like laying like next to a lake under a tree, and like you can hear like the rain falling on the lake. It's like, it's a very tranquil experience, and it's very nice. I like it quite a bit. So that's my favorite combination right now. I don't know if it affects the creams uniquely. I think palm plates tend to just be a lot more different in their sound signature and feel than other plates, just naturally. I don't think it necessarily has to do with the switch. But obviously the fact that palm switches like the creams are all palm, both in housing and stem, it kind of amplifies the palm aesthetic, or not aesthetic, sorry, the just the feel and the sound signature. It just kind of, it stacks the effect because the plate and the switch are both palm, I feel like. It's a good question though. Dash Pekov 6 is asking, have you tried out the 206 grade 00 or any of the other grade 00 loops from Novel Keys? I actually haven't. I totally forgot those existed. I should try to get some of that. Have you tried any of these 00 loops yet?
No. I only had the 205G 10, not the 00. So I'm waiting for the 007 loops. That's gonna be interesting. But
the 207?
No, the G007, like the James Bond number. So
wow, what a
license to kill. Yeah,
your jokes are just as bad as Jay's. Fantastic.
See, I'm a good substitute.
You're a fantastic
substitute. ISO Warrior. That's like I the only thing I can't match is the Mail Day. That's all.
It's okay. All right, so that's actually that's it for our Q&A. There's not a whole lot of questions today, but that's okay, because obviously you have to get to sleep anyways, because you're not in America like I am, where it's 8 p.m.
Good old Europe. Yeah, it's closing on to 6 a.m. So
heck yeah.
And I have to get up at 8 a.m. So I don't think there's any sleep tonight.
Well, you'll get you a quick nap. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you guys feel about Quer? Do you guys think he did a pretty good job here substituting for Jay? I think he did pretty well. Gio says he wants to keep you instead of Jay, apparently. So.
Oh, you know that Jay is gonna watch the VOD tomorrow, and I don't think he wants to hear that. But maybe he can now easily do more vacations and doesn't feel bad about leaving. So
Very true.
there's that.
All right. How about do you have a list of things that that you can plug? I think I did that.
Do I?
You should, yeah.
Do I?
So you can actually catch Quer in other places. Of course, he is one of the hosts of the International Kit, a podcast that our community has, and he does a pretty awesome job there. Of course, you should go check out the episodes that he's going to be linking in chat here.
And just there we go.
Yeah, so make sure to
this
go
is
show him
our
some
homepage, and we are releasing our next episode hopefully Monday or Tuesday next week. So you can look up for that. We are also on all on all podcasts app you can think of, even on Spotify. So if you search for the International Kit, you will find us there. And until the next episode, you can hear your way back through our backlog. There's some interesting stuff in there. Our first episode was an interview with Jay, so that's always interesting. And also, if you want to see more of my stuff or what I do, you can follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. I'm also on Reddit and Discord. I'm also on the Top Clack server, so if you got any questions after the stream, I might not see them right after the stream, but I'll probably check them out tomorrow and just respond to any people that tag me. And also on the website linked is our own Discord server, if you want to check that out.
The link is expired, according to Geo.
What?
You might have accidentally put like a one-day link or something.
For the Discord?
Yeah,
okay.
On your website.
Yeah, that's always happening. I'm giving just as a bonus.
That's okay. We'll have these linked in the YouTube description too, so no worries there, guys. All right. So hopefully all of you.
I'll fix that. That should be doable, but production value.
Yeah, top Clack level production quality.
See, I'm right at home here.
Yeah. No, so you fit in just fine. We're good. So, anyways, we are going to head out for the day. Quer has to get up in a couple hours to go be productive. So, thank you again for joining me as my guest host. I definitely greatly appreciate it. It helped me out a lot, so I didn't have to go through all of this lonely time by myself.
Well, thank you for having me. It was an awesome experience, and well, maybe we can do this again in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, certainly. I definitely like doing kind of impromptu stuff like this, especially when Jay leaves, because he likes to leave. So I say that this is like the second time it's ever happened. But anyways,
yeah, see, already 2 times. I mean, that's something.
That's something. That's right. All right, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the show as much as we did. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to check out Quer at all of his outlets that he's linked in the Twitch chat there. They will also be in the YouTube description on the VOD once that is uploaded in the very near future. So make sure to check all those things out and go listen to the International Kit. Until next time, I do not have a build stream tomorrow unless something magically arrives in my mail. Jay, I don't think is doing a build stream this Sunday because he's still going to be away from vacation. I think he gets back either that day or the day after. So no build stream from him. So the next episode from us will probably, most likely, be the next episode on Thursday. So until next time, guys, thank you all so much for checking us out. Make sure to check Quer out. And have a fantastic rest of your day, regardless of where you are.
Enjoy your day. Bye.